Any response?
Kirk or Austin?
We go. Are we on the people? Yeah.
Oh, this is the thing.
Yeah, we start with the annual meeting, so we can do the pledge of allegiance and let Joe call it to order.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll begin by calling the meeting to order for the annual meeting first, and then we'll move to the regular meeting after we're finished with our annual meeting. Within the annual meeting, I'll ask the board if they want to add the conference boards for Pocahontas and Calhoun County. That did not cross my mind, otherwise they could wait for another meeting. I'm just not sure when they meet again.
What are the conference boards?
A resident from each county from the school board serves on that committee to help set and recommend the wages for the county.
That's what I did this year.
So would you guys like to add that?
I didn't bring that.
Sure. I don't know.
Is that
Okay. Then we'll begin with item number, with the election of the board president. I'd entertain nominations for board president this time.
I'll nominate Tony.
I'll second.
Anyone else wish to nominate someone? Hearing none, I would entertain the motion for unanimous consent, considering you have just one person being nominated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. And turn it back over to Tony.
okay? So we'll move right along into election of vice president. Would anybody like to make a nomination?
I'd like to elect Sarah.
I second it.
Do we have any other nominations? Okay, lacking the same, we'll call for a vote for unanimous approval of Sarah as the vice president. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Next is appointment of the board secretary. With this one, I would like to take a moment to recognize the time that Tracy has spent as our interim board secretary, and acknowledge that service to this point, and ask the board if it would be okay if we got her again for that time that she's filled in for us.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. With that, do we have any nominations for board secretary?
I'd like to nominate Karen Holder.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'd like to just comment and add to that Karen has really been very supportive of the board in the months since our transition. She has helped us in the background with many things to keep the board on pace and continue to function in a lot of ways of keeping Tracy where we needed for board secretary as well, and we appreciate that. And if they had nominated you, I would have. Do we have any other nominations for secretary?
Can we do those two together? Aren't they traditionally together? Treasurer?
It would reunite them, but we can.
Yeah.
You like to make a motion to combine those two?
Yeah,
and,
I'll move to combine board secretary.
Just
Yeah,
got
yeah,
to
yeah, no
changes.
Yep. Let's just vote on this motion first, and then we'll make the other one, reunites those positions. So, there are no other seconds, so I will seek a vote for unanimous acceptance of Karen Halder as board secretary. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Next is appointment for board treasurer. Do we have any nominations?
I'll nominate Karen Holder as treasurer.
I'll second.
Do we have any other nominations for board treasurer? Okay. Given that, we'll call for a vote for unanimous approval of Karen Halder as board secretary. All in favor, please say aye. Board treasurer, sorry, you're already board secretary. As board treasurer, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Dustin is coming, he just texted me back. He's just gonna be late.
Tracy's got the sheet.
Yeah, you can have Karen do it.
We're supposed to get you to do the oath. I forgot.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of board president in Pocahontas Area Community School District as now and hereafter required by law?
I do.
Sarah? Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of vice president in Pocahontas Area Community School District as now and hereafter required by law?
I do.
That's the.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Iowa, of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of board secretary and board treasurer in Pocahontas Area Community School District as now and hereafter required by law?
I do.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for keeping us legal. Okay, next we'll establish our meeting date, time, and location of our regular monthly meetings.
I'll move for the third Monday of the month at 7 PM.
A second.
In the same location.
Same location.
Any other recommendations or I guess at this point it's more of, is there any discussion against? Okay, if not, we'll move to the vote. All in favor of keeping the third Monday of the month at 7 PM in the same location? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, next is to name our official publication, which has been the Record Democrat. Do we have a motion?
I'll move for the Record Democrat.
We have a motion by Sarah, seconded by Jeff. Do we have any discussion against that anyone would like to bring up? Barring that, we'll move forward to the vote. All in favor of the Record Democrat as our official publication, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Next is our designation of legal counsel. That has been Ayler's Law Firm from Des Moines as their central office.
Correct.
I'll move for Ayler's Law Firm.
A second.
We have a motion by Sarah, seconded by Dina, for Ayler's Law Firm as our legal counsel designee. Do we have anyone who wants to have discussion against that? We'll move to the vote then. All in favor of designation of legal counsel being Ayler's Law, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Next is committee membership and assignments. All right, so the 4 committees and those committee terms also ended at the end of last year. So PR committee last year was myself, Sarah, and Dustin. Anyone who has interest in PR committee?
I'll replace Sarah.
I would like to serve on that again.
Since
If
Dustin's
Dustin's
here,
not-
he doesn't have any choice.
And
We just-
Dustin's back.
That's just the way it is. He's on it.
Yeah, perfect, okay. Collective bargaining was, myself, Sarah, and Cherie. Any changes to that?
I'll also take Sarah's spot.
And Cherie, Tony, everybody good with that? Anybody? Sharing,
I'd like to do sharing.
so that moves you into what, yep. So Sarah, and that was,
I was on it, so was Mike.
you and, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, so Mike's, Dina, Sarah, who else was on sharing? Was it Jeff or Dustin?
I think Dustin was
I think it
on,
was
you were
just
only
the
on
two.
one, right?
I was just on facility.
Yeah, I think Dustin was on that one.
Just the two on
I think it
there?
was just the two of us on it.
Oh,
So it'd be
just me and
Sarah
you, Chris?
Oh, well, that's all it was last year was me and Mike.
Okay. And facilities then was you and Mike and Jeff.
Dustin.
So I'll
Oh,
do,
Dustin.
Dustin was
yeah, I'll
on
do
it.
facilities, Dustin, and
Okay, so that would be
Chris, you gonna
Dustin,
do
Sarah, and Jeff.
Got three.
Okay, Dustin, Sarah, and Jeff for facilities, Sarah and Chris for sharing, Dina, Cherie, Tony for collective bargaining, Dina, Tony, Dustin for PR.
perfect.
One other thing, and we might need to form a temporary committee. Back in negotiations, we had agreed to meet with teachers on some early retirement planning. Couple things on that, that cannot be negotiated, that is a forbidden topic for negotiation. So discussions on that have to be pre-negotiations related to our strategic planning, shouldn't be our negotiations group. Ideally, shouldn't be the negotiation group from the teacher side either. So that would prohibit Dina, myself, and Cherie from being involved in that committee to meet with teachers about some early retirement planning. Can we get a couple volunteers for that?
I'll do it. Come on,
Yeah,
Jeff.
Chris or
No,
Dustin?
like hanging
I'll
out.
do it.
All right, Sarah, Chris, and Jeff. Perfect. You guys will set a time to meet with teachers. We'll figure out somebody to do that with.
Can't leave me alone, you never know what I might do.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing.
That's the only reason.
All right, anything else on committee membership and assignments?
Do we need a motion?
Any
approve
motion
all
on
that?
that temporary committee or approving all 5 of
I would
those?
approve them all unless you were gonna add in the conference board.
Oh.
Bill, next.
Yeah, why don't we add the conference board? And it's for each county. So we need Pocahontas,
Dustin is Calhoun. He's the only one who lives there.
Dustin gets Calhoun. We technically cross into Palo Alto.
We have no board members that live in that because,
Okay,
so it's just.
so our only options are Pocahontas and Calhoun. All right, so Dustin has to be Calhoun. Who would like to volunteer for
You
Pocahontas?
wanna do it again?
I will, yeah,
I do.
I'll do it.
Sure. Would be happy for that. Okay. So, can we get a motion to approve the 4 committee assignments, the 1 temporary committee assignment and the 2 county board representative assignments?
So moved.
Seconded.
We have a motion by Chris, seconded by Sarah, to approve the 4 committee assignments, the 1 temporary committee assignment, and the 2 conference board rep assignments. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, settlement of books and financial review from the previous year is
I'll make this for him painless. This is just a quick treasurer's report. As you look at it, it'll show you the beginning balance for each fund as of July 1, the revenues that came in, the expenditures that came out.
This is just a quick synopsis.
Next month, we'll actually go more into detail with each one. We'll talk more about the unspent balance and all that fun stuff, but that's basically just a quick thing. That came straight from my CAR that I do every year, that if you guys don't know, from August 1st till September 15th. I'm not a very nice person because I got a big report to do, so that's called the certified annual report. So this came straight from there, those numbers did.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Sarah, seconded by Dina to approve the certified annual report, settlement of books and financial review. Any discussion, questions? Okay, we'll move to the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, guys.
All right, reports.
I think you could probably skip over that one because the monthly reports and everything else is gonna show up down below in the regular meeting if you wish.
All right, we are ready to adjourn if we have a motion.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
I have a motion by Sarah, seconded by Jeff to adjourn the annual meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Quick meeting.
All right.
There you go, right?
I got it.
That's supposed to be the pattern for the year.
Yes, it is. And we are going to stay on that pattern because tonight we have a regular meeting, we have our annual meeting, our regular meeting, and our 2-hour strategic planning session due to the power outage last week. And we're going to lump all those together and hit a hard stop of 9:30. So we're going to try to stay really efficient on things. We will get all these things up for motion. I'll ask if there's any dissenting discussion to be had. If there is, we'll have that, go through that, and then vote. If there's not, I'm going to call for a motion right away, and we're going to move forward. Okay. All right, so call the meeting to order. Roll call, we're all here except Dustin, and I declare a quorum. As everyone had, and we'll be here momentarily. Yep.
Move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
And that's with the one penciled in.
Yep,
Yes.
with the addition.
Yep. So move to approve the agenda with the addition. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next is the consent agenda of the minutes, invoices, and financial reports from last month. Sheree was the financial report representative of Karen this month. Anything you want to share from that meeting?
No, not really. It went really well. It was very quick. All straightforward.
Makes so much more sense when we have those invoices there.
Yep.
It does.
Any highlights you two discussed you want to point out?
Nothing comes to mind. Do you have any questions?
What's a scrubber?
What's the floor? cleaner?
Floor scrubber.
Oh, so they were so pretty and shiny after.
Any questions on the minutes, invoices, or financial reports?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
We have a motion by Chris, seconded by Jeff to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side. Motion carries unanimously. All right, next, what's going well, middle school, high school? And we get into it.
Look how efficient we are. So Lincoln Borba is going to show up after the games are finished and things are put away, and he does want to talk to you a little bit about the activity report that you have in your packet. But I want to talk to you about our instructional coach here at the middle school, high school. Keenan Lewis has been doing some cool things, and so we just came up with a few things to share tonight. He has started a weekly meeting for teacher development called Monday's Method in Minutes. Getting, I think, a varied amount of attendance at that, but that's great because it gives teachers the option to come and learn something new if they wish. It's a chance for him and others to model specific strategies that people can implement immediately. So it's hopefully very relevant and very usable like the next day. Topics so far have included things like chunking, power writing, and then 4 questions for misbehavior. Another thing he's done is worked on collaboration with Gilbert Community Schools and Algona Community Schools on some science strategies because they have very high scores in science. And one of the things they're doing is implementing some virtual reality cool stuff with kids. Gilbert incidentally had the highest 10th grade science proficiency in the state last year. So the idea is, what are they doing that's working? What could we bring back to us? And it's a process, but there's some plans in place to visit Gilbert to observe and discuss some approaches. He's already met with the Algona coach on Zoom about some implementation. And so that's kind of cool behind the scenes stuff going on. We've also done some virtual reality in physical education classes. We currently have 3 headsets. Students played basketball, did a virtual fitness routine, and the plan is to hopefully extend that into other topics and contents because kids really love that.
Do we know what headsets they're using?
No,
The Quest or what it was?
I should, but I don't.
No, it's okay. It's a weird question.
Associate training sessions is another thing that we've started. Getting the associates in the building together to do some training, because what we've realized is that we can't make assumptions, right? Everybody's at a different place when they get hired onto the team. And so we're trying to fill in some onboarding gaps that we found. And some of the main topics have been confidentiality, essential duties of the job, student behavior techniques for preventing escalated incidents. We do plan to get into some more student-specific approaches in order to support the special ed department with whatever they need, so. Those are just some things I wanted to share about new stuff that we're doing in the building. So, any questions?
Thank you. I have one that I didn't ask in advance, so if there is no answer and it's not prepared,
That's
totally
okay.
understand. The play and the equipment we bought for that, first of all, thumbs up, went great, heard nothing but good things about Beetlejuice and how that went.
Yep.
How did the equipment work?
Very well, as far as I know. They're very pleased with it. Yep. And actually, there's a request out there to perhaps look into something further because we're going to start a jazz choir now as well, which will require some more microphone support, so. Yeah,
Very cool.
waiting on some quotes on that, so. And then we are gonna ask you later in the agenda to approve some expansion for online learning. It's kind of in response to a few situations that have arisen. And so that's coming to you out of basically an answer to a necessity, in my opinion. And the other thing is asking you to approve an additional sponsor for the Tabletop Games Club, because that's a club that has expanded and is continuing to expand. And with the addition of another adult, hopefully will expand even more and give students an opportunity to be involved in something.
What is tabletop games?
They play games, Dungeons and Dragons.
Board games.
Board games.
I wish they had that when I was
Tabletop
in high
games.
school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
And it offers some different engagement forms for some kids that might not necessarily do it.
They generally meet once a week, but they've traveled and done some other things with nearby communities. And we used to do a parent night, family game night, which is something that the sponsors would love to see happen again. And with the support of another sponsor, that would be a little more doable too, so.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Elementary, we get Tracy, how are you?
Good evening. So we have a lot of fun things going on at elementary as well. Our book blast fundraiser that you approved, I'm gonna give you some feedback on that. We had 6 teachers and myself receive shopping sprees, which is just free money to go buy books for your classroom. The teachers that received those are Mrs. Clausen, Mrs. Meyer, Mrs. Olson, Mr. Nielsen, Mrs. Johnson, and Mrs. Watson. And then I received a $285 free as well, and I gave that to our librarian to purchase books at the library. We had $884 in shopping sprees donated to us. We had $9,117.29 contributed by the community, which means 680 books will be going home with students shortly. They arrived today. So that was exciting. That was a good effort on the students' part. So another fun thing, we sent some teachers to the iTech conference. Some of them are here. And they had an opportunity to put their names in for a free drawing. And we were lucky enough to win a stationary bike, which is for students to use in the classroom who need movement as a means of regulating or focusing. It has a tray so they can do their schoolwork at the same time. It's valued at over, I think the estimate I saw was $770, $800 or more. So we have some kids trying that out right now, and it's easy to move between classrooms. So kids are going to have lots of fun time with that. We also were fortunate enough to receive a grant. Mr. Kramer received it, a $10,000 grant, which is gonna allow us to purchase 2 more Clever Touches for classroom use. Right now, all of our classrooms that have Clever Touches currently were purchased through grants that Susan Aylerts wrote and received. We have secured all general education classrooms Clever Touches with grant funds, with the exception of 2 general ed classrooms. We do have some title EL services, special ed, 10A preschool, and some special teachers to consider. And we want to make sure that we are being equitable in that, and providing those devices for all kids for their learning. Right now, I have a survey out to staff who's interested in getting one, making sure that they'll use it and they have a place for it, because they're like 86-inch TVs that you have to have some pretty good wall space. So I anticipate coming back to you in the future here to maybe purchase the remaining ones through different funds at that time. And then finally, I want to talk to you, let you know that students have been making some videos of the do's and don'ts for our Pack Pride expectations. They have made videos on appropriate bus behavior, lunchroom behavior, recess behavior, hall room behavior, and restroom behavior. We've been watching those videos during lunch every day. The kids are really excited to see their hard work pay off. My hope is to bring those videos in the future so that you can understand what they have learned and been working on since last year. We started this last year with just recess etiquette. We had a video on that because we purchased a bunch of different types of activities for kids to do at recess. And so it had things like, this is how you use this piece of equipment, the Connect 4. This is how you take it out, how you put it away. And then so we did some more work with that, and we added in our PAC expectations so that they have the ability to show what it looks like and what it doesn't look like to be on the bus, for instance, and stuff. So they're really excited about that, and I think you'll find them cute videos when you get a chance. I know you want to read tonight. So that's what we have at the elementary. Any questions?
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we have anybody sign up?
Lincoln's here.
Yes, if you give us some feedback on the activities report, yes, please.
Appreciate you guys fitting me in here. Just got done with middle school basketball. So, you guys have the numbers that, okay. Just, like I said, I want to highlight some things and go over some of those numbers that were from the fall, and then some early numbers on participation so far this winter. As you can see, the fall, those were, like I said, those are pretty accurate based on where we finished those fall respective seasons. Maybe I said 1 or 2 numbers that may be off, but for the most part, that's where we finished for the varsity and junior high, as well as the JV levels. Just today, we started high school basketball for the boys, and then our boys wrestling. So winter sports are really kind of in full swing, and we're really excited. I think as an activities department, you know, looking at the numbers, obviously we're always finding ways to improve, looking for ways to improve. And I just want to kind of share with you some things I did mention at our fall coaches meeting, just about kind of where we want to get to as a whole, as far as some maybe mission values and things on a macro level. You know, together as a coaching staff, hopefully we can ensure student athletes develop knowledge, skills, attributes, values, and self-esteem necessary to grow, to shape a changing society. I think that's where we're really at right now, is trying to find ways, you know, starts in the activities department, but goes down to our coaches. How can we find ways in our society that's changing to increase participation, increase those lifelong goals? And then B, we want to uphold character, commitment, community. Those 3 things I think are very important. And then C, we're accountable for student athletes. So our coaches, like I told them, you know, we're accountable for their well-being, we're accountable for their academics, participation, and learning. So overall, I tried stressing that first meeting is that this is education-based athletics. Activities are an extension of the classroom, and it needs to be that way. It needs to be, I think, verbalized and shown that from, you know, top-down level. And so increasing participation in educational-based athletics, you know, what are your benefits? What are the goals and participation habits that are taught, that are learned? And then character development, which involves in ethics and integrity. And hopefully the goal is, you know, eventually to get all of our coaches doing those things, showing those things. And at the end of the day, we think that will help with our numbers. I think at the end of the day, that's what the goal is, to help, give our students and give each one of those individuals opportunities, some avenue. So, like I said, looking forward to the winter season. Like I said, we're underway and looking forward to getting going with that.
Any questions for Mr. Borba?
But appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Did we have anybody sign up for public comment? Okay. All right, so we'll be moving right on into business. First would be discuss approved Pomeroy facility progress. And Joe has an update on the loan historical items from Pomeroy to the city or museum.
I would ask the board to consider placing those items on permanent loan either to the city or allowing the city to work with the Historical Society to determine how best to save, present, and share those items. And then if down the road, for whatever reason, they no longer have space or a desire, that those items would then come back for the board to make decisions on what to do next.
And are those on the things that have already, the Historical Society has them in their possession? It's just a matter of now getting the.
They have some items, but no, not everything.
Not everything. Okay.
We still have items in a room down in Pomeroy, so that they're secure.
Can we make it that, like, can we make a motion to loan historical items from Pomeroy to the city or the museum? Can we do that? We do leave it open that way? Okay. So I'll make a motion to loan historical items from Pomeroy to the city or the museum.
I'll say that.
Any conversation in opposition to that before we vote? Okay, we have a motion from Sarah, seconded by Chris, to approve the loan of historical items from Pomeroy to the city or museum. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. One thing, and I should have caught this before, item 6 is related to the Pomeroy building, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Can you give us a quick update on what's happened with the asbestos removal, and can we talk about item 6 while we're on Pomeroy building?
So the internal asbestos that was remaining has now been removed, and the abatement crew is now working on the outside of the building. So they've been working on the soffits, trying to remove the asbestos located in those, because those are asbestos boards. Once that's complete, there's windows also on the exterior of the building that will be removed. And you have asbestos containing felt in the new gym roof and the connecting link between the new gym and the existing two-story building. So those areas are what's now being removed, with the target to be done by the 1st of December.
And if it gets cold, it's on them at their expense to cover the heating.
This rain cannot be helping.
The outside, they shouldn't need heat for, basically. So they kind of, I think right now they're past that danger area where they needed the water for the inside. The only piece now, I think, inside would be if they had to do some kind of a wash down or containment of the workers.
And we're continuing down the path that we had discussed and voted on in August, and then got the asbestos removal done, get that done before we got the freeze. After we got that done, we're going to be moving into the RFP, which is what item 6 is about, is that first step of the RFP is hiring these engineering firms, FEH, to do the demolition planning and define the specs of what our demolition would be to return it to the final state of green ground that we're looking for, protect the city, water mains, electrical, drainage gradients, all of those things are calculated in with what these engineers would be looking for.
Correct. They will be creating those plans, and then they will work on the board's behalf to solicit quotes, bids to complete that work.
Okay, so they will also then go take our RFP out and bring us back quotes that we could then, that would be the final quote for demolition.
Correct.
What does RFP stand for?
A request for proposal.
Okay.
It's seeking bids, so they'll put together the package, definitions of what we're having done in the demolition, and then they will seek people who are willing to bid on meeting all of those specs of our request for proposal.
So did I hear we're taking the windows out of the building right now?
Some of the windows on, it would be the east side of the building, did have asbestos caulk built and glazings built into those units. So those areas will be removed.
Are you worried about people getting in and out?
No, they are responsible for covering those openings back up again.
Okay, good.
Was there anything you wanted to add to FEH for demolition planning contract?
Just the process wise, we started looking for companies who could assist us. We started with Estes. Also, I reached out to TSP, who we've used in the past for some of our engineering work. Ultimately, Estes came back and brought us two names of companies who would be willing to do this work for us. One of those two names we have used in the past, with a little bit of angst on the part of the board. So I went with the other group, which is FEH, for the recommendation for you this evening. You have worked with FEH in the past as well. When we first did facility planning study of all of our buildings, FEH was the company who did that initial study for you.
And so then, that's in our packet, starting on page 33.
So the approval amount will be 71,645, right, Joe?
Correct.
And that's coming out of the general, or is it coming out of the
Pebble.
Pebble with this part?
Let me look into whether or not that could be paid for out of Pebble or not.
Because I know the demolition is part of Pebble, but I didn't know
Yeah.
if this engineering part would be that.
What page are you on, Chris?
I believe it
34.
is, Chris, but I want to double
Yeah.
check rather than misstate.
Does this have to be approved today?
The timeliness of getting this started, the process of just drawing up the specifications will take an extended window of time to do this work. So delaying it a month does move everything back and probably moves you out of the window of completion by the end of June, which would be my goal, to get the work completed so that your new superintendent, when he takes over July 1, isn't trying to finish up a project.
I'll move to approve the FEH bid.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Chris, seconded by Dina to approve the FEH bid. Do we have any discussion opposed?
Yeah, and I had spoke with Joe about how we got to the FEH bid, and he had reached out to other companies, which he said, but he said they never got back to him. That's why.
TSP didn't reply
They
back.
did reply.
They did not
Did
reply.
not.
TSP was the one that did not get back to us.
And just getting to the point that there was only a handful, the one reached back out of the three I think he contacted, so.
Yeah, we
That's why
reached out to Estes, TSP, and then Estes brought back FEH and Shive Hatterley.
And you're not
Which is-
saying,
I'm just saying that's why there's no other bid.
right, you're wanting the public and everybody else here to understand, you're asking, did this is $72,000, did we try to get other quotes, did we look in other places?
Yeah.
You want everybody to know what we did. Perfect.
And this, doesn't impact our general fund as our ability to continue with our current costs and,
That was a question Chris was asking, and I will verify that for you. I
Yes, but-
believe.
yep,
will
that's
be
what
a part
bucket
of
it came out of, but if it has to come out of general, it's not going to,
No,
cause any further
I
issues.
believe it will come out of your capital projects,
okay.
but I want to verify
Yeah.
that rather than misstate something.
So when you say capital projects,
That would be your silo or your, well,
Save losses.
save loss, it's all the same
Okay.
thing, it's just the name changes over time,
yeah,
or
Okay.
Pebble.
it's just what you call it isn't on the page, so that's why I was just trying to
Okay,
clarify.
so we have the motion by Chris, seconded by Dina, to approve the FEH contract. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item 2, discuss approve disposal of obsolete items at auction. You have that list beginning on, the whole list on page 22.
What is a metal shearer?
Cut like steel.
Oh.
It could be rod. It'd probably be like sheet metal. You can just cut it.
Where do these come from?
They're in the back room of the shop in Pomeroy.
Old Pomeroy shop equipment. And none of those fit any of our current,
I don't think they'll meet standards for today's safety.
very important point. Okay. Anything else that you would add, Jeff? Gonna sell them at auction? We gonna sell them out? How we gonna?
Auction.
Auction.
I'll move to approve the list of obsolete items for auction.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Sarah, seconded by Chris, to approve the disposal of obsolete items at auction. Do I have anyone who would like to speak to the opposed position? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, discuss approve field placement agreement for student teacher, Grand Canyon University. Want to tell us about that, Joe, or?
Yep, this is for a student teacher, to be placed at the elementary, third grade. We try our hardest to, be available for these opportunities. It is a first chance to get people into the district. It also allows bringing in of new ideas coming out of college into our buildings and classrooms as well. Besides the fact it gives staff really a first look at potentially available candidates for positions down the road.
Maybe they'll fall in love and stay.
How did they find Pocahontas? Are they from here or?
She was an associate for us previously,
Okay.
finished her teaching and license, and now is done and will be teaching January to April.
I'll move to approve the field placement agreement for student teacher at Grand Canyon University.
A second.
I have a motion by Sarah, seconded by Cherie, to approve field placement agreement for student teacher from Grand Canyon University. Is there anyone who wants to speak to the opposed position on that motion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have personnel contracts. We have Robert Brinkman, Assistant Custodial Director, Alicia Dean, Middle School ELA, and Christian Rosado, Tabletop Games Sponsor. I knew I was missing a word on that.
I'll move to approve them all.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Sarah, seconded by Dina, to approve contracts for Robert Brinkman, Alicia Dean, and Christian Rosado. Anyone want to speak to the opposed position on that motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next is discuss approve expanding online virtual classes through Edgenuity. This is what you referred to earlier, Andrea. Do you want to give us a quick overview?
I don't know that I can say more than what I did, except that.
What's the cost difference
Cost?
to expand it? Is there a cost? associated?
No, because we already have access to middle school stuff. So this just expands our offerings to middle school, which.
So this is more updating the policy because we are mental
Correct.
health. If there's no cost association, nothing else. Perfect, good to know.
I mean, philosophically, online learning is maybe not the best option for middle schoolers, but there are always extenuating circumstances. And I think it behooves us to have an option to keep them under our umbrella. Because eventually it'd be great if they could return to us in person. And that's ultimately kind of what led me to wanting to ask for this tonight, so.
There's been a couple times the last couple of years where we wanted that option
Yeah.
in the middle of a disciplinary.
Right, but they weren't old enough.
In the middle of a hearing. So.
Yep.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I'll move to approve expanding online virtual classes through Ingenuity.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Sarah, seconded by Chris, to approve online virtual classes through Ingenuity. Anyone who wants to speak to the opposing position? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we did 6 while we were covering Pomeroy, so that moves us to 7. Discuss, approve, open enrollment out. I don't know if I'm supposed to say names here.
Student A and student B is usually what
The
we're
parent
doing.
names are what's listed on your agenda.
Parent names, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so,
I just call me and be though.
yep, all right.
Yeah.
Parent A and parent B, discuss, approve, open enrollment out. Any background you want to share on that, Joe or Ken?
Parent A, we don't have a lot of information regarding that request. Parent B, however, that student has not been one of ours in the past, so it has already been an open enroll out. They moved, however, from MNW to South Central Calhoun,
No, he's back.
or ESAC. ESAC. They now want to move back, due to some health concerns.
So they're currently at technically ESAC and want us to open enroll demands.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Sarah, seconded by Dana to approve open enrollment out for parent A and parent B. Any discussion opposed? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next is discuss committee work updates. We did have a sharing meeting with Lorenz. I don't know if that's necessarily committee sharing. Could just kind of highlight briefly what we talked about there. Unless there's something else you want us to cover on that topic.
The only thing I would point out on that, I gave you a link to your shared drive as board members for those committee notes. So if anyone wanted to go back and look, or in this case, maybe to catch Dina up, you literally could go back and take a look at items that have been uploaded by committee members in the past regarding those committee workshops.
A very positive, welcoming meeting from Lorenz's part. Very open to expanding our sharing. Gave us some good feedback on how things have been working, and that appears to be moving forward very nicely. Has there been any other committee work or updates since our last meeting? Okay. Discuss board calendar, board training.
For the next year, do we want to continue the 30 minutes early, continue working through those board trainings? Been effective, I think most of us have gotten through 15 hours this year, so.
I think between going to convention and doing that, it keeps us there as a board. It's a good goal to strive for. I think it's important to continue to not just individually do that, but for the board to strive to achieve the overall board education goal. So I'd like to continue doing that. Those training sessions.
I'll keep that rolling.
We have convention later this week, Wednesday through Friday. Everyone's gotten some agenda information as well as hotel information from Karen. If you have any questions about that, actually, please either way, she'd asked us to confirm back to her our hotel stay arrangements, so please do confirm back to her that the dates she's booked for you are correct.
Preferably by the end of the board meeting tonight. When we get done, she's supposed to call the hotel, beg for a little bit of an extension of time so we could lock everything in.
Did you get my email? I sent it this afternoon.
All right, other things coming up on our board calendar at a very busy schedule through the month of November, but I don't think after convention, oh wait, December 2nd, the PR committee will be meeting at the Lorenz City Council. That's the only thing I'm aware of between now and our December meeting.
I have a question that kind of relates and kind of doesn't, and I don't need to put anyone on the spot here. I liked hearing from our dean of students when he's available. Would he be able to speak with the other administration to what's going well? Can we add him in there?
Is it for Lincoln to come back on a regular cadence and give us that feedback on?
If he's at, events, that's fine. Yeah, I understand, but yeah, perfect.
Okay, we are at board takeaways. So, you wanna go first?
I'll go first. I really like Lincoln's presentation and his goals to kind of keep it going, and it's good.
I appreciate the administration, as a whole and their responsiveness to meeting and achieving student goals and, ingenuity and some of the trainings and the things that they've all done. I appreciate that.
From my end, I thank you to the administration and the board itself, for us to get the annual meeting, the regular meeting, and our strategic planning all in tonight before 9:30. We had to be very efficient through that first section. We broke some new ground, and I'd like to stay in these for more efficient meetings and have that become our regular cadence. Thank you all for that.
That was my takeaway from the rounds, maybe. Anything over an hour is not good.
Unless there's need, but yeah.
Well, I was gonna say that too, that like hearing from admin was all the neat, exciting, fun things that are happening, especially with the grants and that kind of thing is fun.
I apologize, I was late.
I'm glad it's your to take it.
And I can ask some teachers, are you all here for the grant stuff? Any of you? No? I can get a hold of someone, talk about the grant, see what that was about. But I love seeing grants.
It was the clever touchscreens.
That was for Mr. Kramer.
Oh,
so you're
very good.
We want a stationary bike.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. And the fundraising went well with the books. Kids are taking 632, did I get that? 680 books.
Yeah.
Since you were late,
We
you're
got a
on.
whole library.
How many signs you have for some?
I already had a list.
All four committees, the temporary committee and the conference board.
That's good, we didn't mind, we put you on all the ones we didn't want to do. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Sorry for being late.
You're fine. We got you.
We're just glad you're safe.
Alright. Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to adjourn our regular meeting?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Sarah, seconded by Dina to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, meeting adjourned. Okay, we actually get, and we'll still get to keep our 9:30 hard stop, and if we're done sooner, that would be great. But we get 2 hours to go through strategic planning. All the teachers, anybody's here, if you want to stay and see what's coming and be involved, please do.
They do. They're leaving.
I'm not sure they heard the invite, frankly, because they were clear.
No, I think we should the same.
You guys are welcome to stay, as always. If you want to participate in the strategic planning session, you are welcome. Look it up, I think it's 5:30.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Did you read it out? What? Were you reading it or did you read it out?
When I was working on a furnace and then I got a text from
Okay, this is all gonna be on the screen behind us. We wanna flip some tables around so everybody can see that. I'll be able to see here, if you guys can see what's on my screen, I got your screen.
I have it up over here for me to share too. So Joe's got to pull it up for Jeff for his second.
Yes.
Yeah.
What time is yours? 6:30 or 7? 6, 7? I pulled it up in the morning. Hold up, 6:30, I better get going.
I just caught that, yeah.
Otherwise I would've been late.
I would have been late, yeah.
Joe? Joe?
Yep.
Like to sleep on us?
You're going down Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday.
Okay, Sherry's going down Wednesday.
Karen, I'm about 80% sure that I'm going down. And 20%
And
that I
Jen.
might not be able to go at all.
Sure.
We'll hope for the 8. Well, you and Jeff have to share a room, so I get to, no, I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't care.
Yeah, that wouldn't bother me. It's like,
Bring,
hey.
bring some earplugs.
I just,
I score like a freight train.
Me too.
Are you going down?
you go on Tuesday night.
I work Tuesday, so I'm already halfway there, so I'll just head down. I just have to pack stuff.
Okay, so here's a quick overview of what we're gonna do with the next 2 hours. First 15 minutes, I'm gonna do a summary overview of what we've done to get here, some ground rules for tonight, just kind of lay out what the discussion is gonna be about. The next 45 minutes, we'll spend most of that time in year 5 on ideal outcomes. We're talking about what those long-term strategies are and what year 5 and beyond looks like. Then we'll come back and spend about 45 minutes on the year 1 draft that we've gotten and the work that's done so far. And then we'll wrap up based on that work and what we have looked at and collaborated on and what that plan looks like over the next year and next steps to finalizing the plan and moving forward. So first, I'm not gonna go through this whole slide again, but why do we do strategic planning? Provides direction, improves our decision-making, enhances resource allocation, helps us anticipate challenges, helps us improve overall performance. A lot of kudos to go out there. In February, we sat down and reviewed the strategic planning process and what we were going to work on and do to achieve those things. Since then, we've gone through our mission statement and core values. We have worked on and completed our portrait of a graduate. We did the SWOT, and I'm drawing a blank on the number of respondents we had now, but it was well over 100. And we summarized all of that data, pulled it back from staff, admin, board, accumulated that information, and used it to help us drive that goal selection area. And then coming out of the goal selection and the discussions that we had that night and some things around that, we started our board self-assessment. Went through those sessions with IASB to help us refine some things there and understand how we're taking those top 3 goals. And the point that we're at now and what's in the red circle there is we're starting to add those performance objectives and key performance indicators. And the first piece of that that's already done is we've gotten the draft strategic plan from the admin. And it's a great starting point that summarizes a lot of what we've done. We're gonna spend a lot of time in that tonight, but without the backbone that you guys already did on that, and Tracy's not back there, so she'll be back in a moment, I'm sure. But I wanted to take just a moment. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Joe, Tracy, for where we are so far. And thank you all to the board that's done this work. Thank you to all the teachers and staff who filled out the surveys. We're gonna have a great discussion tonight. There's some really powerful things that have been brought forward with this, and it's all because of what's been done from all of you bring that information forward. So a couple ground rules of what we're looking for. Our mindset is a choice in this, and we want to do things that unite people instead of divide people. And how we unite them is by collaborating, planning, and documenting and communicating our work so that we build that shared vision and shared understanding. And once we have that shared vision and shared understanding, we can use that to ensure that we have consistent messaging. And when I say messaging, I'm referring to thought, word, and deed. Our actions, our words, our intentions, how they come across, align to our unified goals and our outcomes. That's what consistent messaging means in these terms. Okay, the next ground rule sheet, and you guys all agree to this, and our meetings keep getting shorter and shorter. We'll just print this on a little credit card size wallet thing and take it around with us and take it down to the state. But Okay, I'm gonna start in the middle. 12 ground rules for tonight to make this a better meeting. Credit to Acumen Organization. I stole this from their website. I gave you a link that you could go in and read their article about what they did, but they're very good ground rules and reasons for them. So number one, our mental presence is required. We need everybody's focus. Everybody has a voice. There are no bad questions or stupid ideas. Number four, avoid but and try yes and. Number five, attack problems, not people. Number six, active listening is required. Number seven, mutual respect will promote creative thinking. Number eight, it's okay to disagree. Number nine, it's not okay to not speak up. Carry those things forward, harbor them, bring them out later. Now's the time to bring them up and bring your voice to the table. Off-topic comments will be parked. We get too far away from where we're at, we get into the weeds, those will also be avoided. And at the end of the day, our unity is critical. So if we follow those 12 rules and we live on that obstacles to overcome mindset that we came out of our training and IASB really helped us solidify, but those 8 characteristics of highly effective school boards, some of the things that we can't do on the right side here are those we can't mindset things that we've always done it that way. That won't work at our school. Anxiety-based reactions and blame, selfishness, ego, my way, staying in our comfort zone, and SAFECO. And SAFECO is an acronym for Stop at First Convenient Obstacle. Okay? So can we agree to those ground rules for tonight? Is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
All right. So next, we gave ourselves a couple things that we should use to focus on this. And I want you guys to keep in mind, and I can flip back to these 2 charts at any time, through our board self-assessments and that work, we determined in the characteristics that IASB helped us focus on what our top goals are. And this is kind of that 5-year plan on the left, right? So the number 1 thing for us, high expectations, clear goals. The number 2 thing for us, goals and resources that are aligned. The number 3 thing for us is a tie in the belief that all children can learn and collaboration and communication. Number 5 is data savvy. And behind that's team leadership. The next thing to think about as we get into these different pieces, those on the left there, that's that first 45-minute bucket where we're talking about year 5 and beyond. Where are we at in our future thinking? I want you guys to keep in mind the 3 traits that we decided were most important, but also really this graph helps us see there wasn't 3 that rose to the top above the rest. We have to, this is who we said we want to be in that 5-year picture. In the 12-month picture where we said we needed focus, we came with 2 very clear things. Number 1, high expectations and clear goals. Number 2, collaboration and communication. So as we talk through these things tonight, keep in mind when we're talking about the next 12 months and what things fit, what things don't, those are what we all collectively came to as our priorities. Okay? Any questions about the 2 charts I'm showing from our IASB board self-assessment work? And that's everybody who's here too. Feel free to add, question, whatever as we go. Okay, next, why change? And this is an interesting look at our choices. On the right is that path, albeit a more stable path, but a downward trend towards the next future consolidation. Open enrollment out issues, staff turnover issues, funding concerns, population trends, and where that's going against this, societal trends, and student and community engagement, a we can't mindset. If we don't change anything, that is the ultimate path that we're heading down. If we do change things and we really want to be that destination school for staff and students, it's all of PAC, all of our communities, our students, our staff, our board, and our communities united as one. It's students thriving to their individual greatness. It's an empowered, innovative staff. It's an engaged community. It becomes a culture and execution thought leader for rural schools in Iowa, and we really get to that we will mindset. We develop and deliver on our core values of prepared, accountable, and collaborative. we deliver on our portrait of a graduate of PAC Pride and being principled, resilient, innovative, determined, and empathetic. Okay? Any questions on why change?
I think we're already starting it. We've already started it.
We hit that fork in the road and are going hard that way. We want to make sure that everybody sees it the same, and that's kind of why we're going to talk tonight to what we are.
No, it's good.
And hey, we're another 5 minutes ahead again, so we're gonna keep going that way. So next is, we get into a 45-minute discussion on year 5 end goal type thinking, okay? Couple things that I have here on the screen is, number one is the 3 high-level things that we worked on originally: financially sound, success for all, meaning students, staff, and our communities, and that safe, positive environment. And then what you see right below that comes from the administrative team, and they did a great job in our draft plan of stating some narrative there that we can build off of. Under the financially sound side, narrative of maximized resources. PAC optimizes and prioritizes resources according to students' needs while preserving the district's financial stability. Okay? The next milestone to talk about as we get there that they set out for us is under the Success for All, and that is our energized stakeholders. Narrative statement: PAC is an educational destination that empowers staff, motivates students, and is recognized for its academic achievements, extracurricular opportunities, and supportive learning environments both in and out of the classroom. Under the safe, positive environment, and then focusing even more on that optimized learning environment, they gave us that narrative description of PAC provides exceptional instruction that supports academic, social, and emotional growth, ensuring that each student's unique needs are met and their overall development is fostered. Okay, so next is just kind of
We're gonna have to discuss the font on some of these.
Oh, yeah. We'll play around with the font. And we're gonna get into specifics here right now. This is just a visual, and all I did was cut and paste with no edits. The operational sections that came from the draft plan and the high-level strategic outcome sections that came from the draft plan. And they are a great place for us to start that conversation. And we will dive deeper into what those mean over time. But by year 5, we should be progressing to that idea. And that's where we are in that optimized learning environment. We have energized stakeholders. We have that financial resources, and that we are sound on that front. I put some other things at the bottom to help us drive this next part of our conversation, but it's what are some of the student metrics when we say we want to be a destination school for students? Academically, what does that look like on a career path plan? What does that look like in terms of graduation rate? What does that look like grade point average? What other preparation of life measures that staff can help us understand and determine when we talk about that 2-year, 4-year, or I want to go straight from high school to the workforce? What does PAC offer in those different areas? Spending status, and I did want to bring this out.
Pause for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so this slide, I think even if I put my reading glasses on, I wouldn't be able to read it. Can we pause and print that so that I can have the same information you have?
Yeah, but hang on. You have it right here. If you go back to the previous slide, those same things that you can't read are on up there.
What's underneath of them?
The strategies I think is what she's looking at.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't.
You're looking at 24, 25, or are you looking out in?
It's blurry still.
I think it's blurry, that's what I was gonna say. I think it's blurry.
Yeah,
And my glasses.
I still can't see it either way. No, but the strategy's underneath the little box, safe environment, and then the little, go back to that slide.
It is a little blurry.
Right there, it says optimized learning environment. What does it say under that? I can't, and when I try to blow it up on mine, it's blurry.
It's this. optimized learning environment, right? It's the exact same paragraph here. That's what they put out there for you as the year 5 marker.
I think she's talking about the strategies, where was it under? It's really.
The bulleted strategies.
They're the strategies.
Yeah.
Over here, under 24-25.
Yep, I cannot. read.
You are into the next 45-minute section, and I'm not gonna let you go there yet.
Okay, well, in the meantime, can we print it?
We are talking in year 5 right now first. We're talking end goals. And you guys stay in the right-hand column,
It's supposed to be blurred on
or you get
purpose.
smacked with a ruler.
Took up those 5 minutes.
That's right.
Those are 5 minutes ahead.
Sarah.
Feeling old.
So,
Okay.
we want to stay out here in the far right-hand column for the next 45 minutes and talk about some of those end goal things, okay? And we're going to start from the things that the admin gave us in the draft plan. We want to add some of the other things and just recognize when we talk about a destination for students, what does that look like in year 5? That's one of the things that we want to pull out of this group in that discussion. I do want to highlight for everybody where we're at in our spending status and what that has to look like by year 5, because that's not part of what our year 1 discussion is going to be. But last year, coming into negotiations, we needed to cut about $350,000 in available budget through spending or wages. We didn't. We wanted to flip some trends. We wanted to keep our staff. We had concerns that if we cut staff, we would just drive more open enrollment and start a spiral in that direction. So we intentionally are deficit spending right now in year 24-25 to that target of about $350,000. We know we have to be flipped to a balanced growing budget by 28-29. And you note there, somewhere in that 26, 27, 27, 28, we have to have flipped that back. And we're going to use IFAS-based financial targets to help drive that. And Joe's going to get us a new report for that before the end of the year. And I'm going to stop myself now because now I'm getting into this year as well. Yep, getting into the weeds. I want to stay back. So year 5, what does a destination school for students look like? What does our balanced growing budget need to be? For staff, what does the destination school for staff look like? For open enrollment, I've thrown the goal out there personally of number 1 in the state in terms of open enrollment in as a percentage of student body, but let's talk about what our collective goal is there. Budget impact of open enrollment, we want that to be positive, but what percentage is possible? Annual funding per student, that bottom row is just there for us to see what the state is providing. That is state of Iowa to be determined. Our only real piece in that is continued advocacy at the legislative level for changes on that front. And that's part of what happens at conference and some other pieces. So let's spend a moment in year 5 and pick any bucket you guys want. Do you want to start in safe, positive environment? Do you want to start in success for all?
Start at the top.
All right, let's start at the top. Safe, positive environment. So let's go here and give a better blow up of what that optimized environment looks like. So the narrative that we're starting from, optimized learning environment, PAC provides exceptional instruction that supports academic, social, and emotional growth, ensuring that each student's unique needs are met and their overall development is fostered. In that same front, and I don't know if these are 5-year plans, it might be initiatives, et cetera. We'll talk about those more specifically, but is there, behavioral issues is a big piece of what we talked about, and I kind of wanted to ask you guys what your thoughts were on behaviorally in that ideal environment. Who are we? What do we look like on that front?
So we're talking, we've initiated detention, so we want to see a downward trend in behaviors, continued education and social emotional learning, which I know we've been doing work in that in elementary for 3 years, right? So we want to continue down that path. Hopefully have a cell phone policy, which we've seen more schools in the state of Iowa go to, and we think that that's something that's distracting and decreases from the potential to learn. I think detention's been going well.
Let's see. gonna limit how big it will really look into that.
What metric are we using to, are we using that? There's a form that we had that talked about how safe kids health in school, right? Are we using that as a metric for this, or what are we using as a metric? I don't have that paper. in front of
That
me.
comes from the conditions of learning survey, is
Oh, conditions of
that what you're talking about?
Was
Um,
that what we had? I don't have the strategic, their original one. Was that the metric we were using for that? I guess my question is, what's the metric that we're using to measure that? Is that social emotional learning?
And we can jump back to.
And you guys are tracking behaviors, right? Yeah. So we have that for our behavior.
You're pulling me back to year one a little bit. So here we're gonna get in a lot deeper dive on year one and what some of that looks like. And the cell phone policies there, staff participated in behavior book study, detention program, address chronic absenteeism, implement curriculum, continue multi-tier structure support, system support, EWS, that one I'm not as familiar with. The warning system, creation and implementation, ESSA, every student succeeds act, required professional development and recognition of behavior. So those are all year one things. At year 5, if we have reached an optimal learning environment where we provide exceptional instruction that supports academic, social, and emotional growth, ensuring that each student's unique needs are met, what does that look like? Where can we, to your point, and we're gonna kind of come back to year one, but how are we gonna, what are the measures we're gonna be using to determine if we got there?
How will we know we're successful? Okay, we're gonna see a decrease in behaviors, right? Which will inherently prove an increase in social emotional learning, right? And,
The kids will feel safer.
conditions of learning should improve. And I'd like to continue to see innovation in using evidence-based practice for things that we know that we're in a changing and evolving society. So if you're looking at my ideal 5-year plan, it would be as things come up along the path, we continue to adjust and grow with best practice, with whatever the evidence-based practice says, what that's guiding us, because I don't want to set the plan now and never evolve in 5 years, right? So an evolving use of evidence-based practice to improve behavior and improve social emotional learning. So we're looking at a 5-year plan, right?
Yep, evidence-based, let me just capture your thought again there.
Evidence-based research or best practice. Policies that decrease behaviors or increase social emotional learning, SEL, right?
Say that one again for me, so.
Evidence-based practice or best practice policies that decrease behaviors or increase social emotional learning, right? I don't know what those things are that we, we're evolving and changing, but I wanna be looking for that. When we start talking about grants, our teachers and our staff and our administration started to look for grants, and they've been coming out the woodwork. How amazing is that? And if we start looking for evidence-based social emotional learning and things that decrease behavior, when we look for red cars, we find red cars, right? So I'd like that to be, if we're looking at a 5-year plan, to have that in the back of our minds. What's evidence-based? What's best practice? What's working? How do we capture that as a district?
One of the things, and I want to make sure that it's captured in there somewhere, is the physically safe environment. And that aspect, and we never want to lose sight of that.
Yeah, we want to
is that
continue
first.
updating those ADA requirements, yeah.
The ADA requirements, a safe, secure space that we know and are confident in children in our communities being here. So it was one piece of what the optimized learning environment and academics are most important, but if we don't have the physical safe environment and something happens within our building, all of that is lost.
So continue building security and safety. I know we've
Building
updated some
security
things.
and physical safety, that some element of that has to be.
And
in
then
there.
training, like, how often do we do ALIS training for our staff? Is that yearly? Is that?
Generally,
Okay.
Is that what the man used to be?
No, man. ALIS is like active shooter.
Oh, that's
And then ADA, so safety for
Yep.
our vulnerable population. I know we've had to make some upgrades in the elementary. I was thinking about that as I was going to the bathroom. I thought, these kids are gonna grow up and they're gonna be in high school and they're gonna have different
And
needs.
they actually have that ADA compliance in year one, so we'll get to come back to that again. There's, isn't necessarily in year one, but in the draft plan. I gotta
But
be
those
careful about
needs
calling that year
for
one.
Yeah,
third grader is gonna be different when they're in middle school.
I was just gonna say, I
Already
wasn't
happened.
sure that when we wrote this, we thought everything we put in was year one. That was, maybe got lost in translation, I think, between us and the board a little bit.
And we got room to move,
Clear.
just, and that's kind of what I
Yeah.
intended to show tonight and come back to in those last 15 minutes, but we are a long way into year one already. And so what I took from where I pasted everything you guys shared us so far is, let's really consider year one, year two, where these things fit. Some of those might be longer, other ones will be shorter initiatives, but I do not want anybody to leave with the impression that everything on that draft plan, we took as, you guys committed to have that done by June
No.
30th,
Right.
right? We
No.
got you in blood here and it's all signed, sealed and delivered.
No, but looking at a 5-year plan, with those needs for some of those children will change and we need to adapt with that.
So does bullying fit in here too, where the kids aren't bullied, because you have physical safety, but it's also.
How do we measure that? Will that be in the conditions of, learning?
Well,
Or it's reflected in your behavior reports.
and open enrollment, maybe do.
Would it be
From getting that far.
too lofty a goal to say eliminate bullying in our school district?
No, we should have an goal.
You can always put it in for a fifth year.
Yeah, what did we just say? We have high expectations.
Yes.
No, Nelly wants.
We have to work towards that as
You don't get
an
there, you
ideal
don't
goal.
get there, you don't get there.
The kids are actually preaching it to other kids, like, hey, we're gonna be doing that, like they've caught on.
We're gonna have a market to measure discussion and maybe now's a decent time to jump ahead, but about the 100% engagement. And I wish Alex Lou was here tonight because he and I had a really good conversation after that. He is. I'll hold it until he comes back in then. So, okay, 100%. Anything else that people are, and we're talking in this one about our learning environment and also making it a more conducive place to work. Anything that the teachers and staff might see of things that in our 5th year of that amazing environment, what might be
I
some
would
working
like to
conditions that
see
you'd
a
like to see?
policy for bullying our staff. Bullying our staff. I'd like to see a policy about how we intervene and respond to children who are aggressive with staff and parents who are aggressive with staff. I would like to see that.
Yes, I agree.
There should be something that we've outlined that our teachers need to be safe as well. I did not think that any of them do it because they're gonna be rich. Maybe famous, but.
Things like fully staffed at all positions.
Well, they have professional development. Opportunities.
I think there's a place for
Is
that.
that success for all for staff though? I think that one is more there. We're still in the environment right now. But what about our optimized learning environment? We got some really good things that we're pointing towards children first, as we should, academics first and what's in that environment. But now we're starting to get to some of the things that impact staff in that optimized learning environment by year 5.
I'd like to foster innovation. How about that one? We've talked about that a lot, innovation, right? Like to foster and grow that in our staff. If they have a dream and we can support it and it improves their classroom.
Like the idea, help me word what you think that looks like in year 5 outcome. We have Innovative environment, what does that mean?
Any suggestions from the admin table? How we frame the ideal of a 5-year plan of fostering innovation in our staff and administration?
Maybe freedom to be innovative too.
Well, there's always limitations to that.
Well, yeah, but we're looking at the ideal.
So innovative environment with empowered staff and freedom to implement their ideas.
Ooh, I hate that. I hate the
Pushing
word
them a little
freedom.
far, maybe, I don't know.
Oh,
Kind of
have you seen the TikTok where they're like, oh, you guys lied to me. You said when I got to grow up to be an adult, I could do whatever I want. Well, the truth is you can only do what you can afford to do, right? And that's kind of the, like,
Legally.
yes,
Yeah.
I want everyone to have the freedom to do that. However, we do have restraints like money, time, staff. So the word freedom implies it's a free for all, and
I don't know, can you say something about trust?
foreign.
Innovative environment with empowered staff who are trusted to implement quality instructional material, I don't know.
And one of the things I was wondering about is Alice trains every year, so it's not something specific to 5 years.
And I would recommend changing the wording from Alice and maybe use active shooter response training. Alice is what's the term they use?
Well, someone bought it.
Yeah, it's bought, I mean, so it's licensed now,
Oh, yeah.
so
Like,
there are
We don't want to.
other versions that are available that are from
Other places.
Homeland Security, for example, that use the same concepts. However, they're not presented using Alice materials. So the other is a little more encompassing. It's not that you can't use Alice, but if we use the wording for Alice, then it questions, should you also be paying
Yeah, great catch.
to use that name?
Yeah.
The culture and things that we're driving from the elementary level, that become our portrait of a graduate by the senior level, is there a cultural piece of our optimized learning environment, or do you see that more under the success for all, or kind of, where do you guys see the implementation of our core values and the portrait of a graduate plan? Is that part of our learning environment? Is that part of success for all? Kind of, where do you think that fits?
I feel like all of this feeds into that.
What is the name of the
These are all pieces of the.
elementary
that
character strong, yeah. So, I mean, I think continuing to start character building though in elementary is an important piece of making sure that we follow all the way through.
So it's character strong program in elementary, ongoing character development under the portrait of a graduate through middle school and high school.
I think we make it more generalized though, so we don't end up, if we hate character strong later.
Character driven programs. By year 5, can I just say that's who we are across the district?
In case you find something you like better and we're not stuck with it.
We have to work on it in this
Yeah.
building. Because we've tried implementing what we didn't get there, so we need to try again.
Okay, you got 5 years. No, just kidding.
5 years, hard stop. When these 5 years were done, no more character.
No more character.
That's good. Yeah.
Any other?
Because we never want to lose sight that we're raising human beings.
And leaders, and, yeah.
I'm gonna, facilities type environment, I'm gonna save for the financial discussion unless somebody wants to talk about that in terms of optimized learning environment.
So would this be where we would put programs that we might want to see in 5 years or start working toward in 5 years, or is there another spot for that?
This
That's
is,
achievement for all.
This optimized learning environment, okay, so that's a great one. I would, by that time, hope that we have very clear career paths for I want to work straight out of high school. I'm on a 2-year path, I'm on a 4-year path.
That's what I'm thinking. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Wait, is optimized learning achievement for all? We've called it different things, so I want to keep on track.
No. It's a separate category, isn't it?
There's only 3. The maximize resources clearly financials. And energize stakeholders should be
Optimize to see.
communication stakeholder.
Optimized is your social emotional safe
Yeah.
category, I believe.
So like the ag safe operations class, expanded RLC, specializing in behavior issues and a return to the classroom, specializing in learning with SPEC were some things that we talked about in terms of funding and where the state pays more for those particular areas. Is that something that we could look at in terms of, this also has an aspect of open enrollment in, what kind of services could we offer academically, educationally that would make people say, I want to go to PAC?
Can I ask a question? So I'm gonna put on my hat here because you're in the process of transition, right? So one of the conversations I had with Tony earlier is you're going to involve a new superintendent in this process. So as you're looking 5 years out, I'm gonna challenge you maybe to think about it from a big picture point of view and not get into the specifics of how, so that you can then allow your staff over the next 5 years to fill in those blanks
To take
with their
over.
administrators and bring back to you the how we're going to get there. You know, what you're saying is good stuff. My concern might be that it might limit the focus of what they believe at that point in time may give you the biggest advance, because you've narrowed down too tight that end goal. And maybe I'm wrong, but just when you start getting into, ag safety programs, now you're getting into specifics. When you start mentioning, even, I'll go back to the active shooter response, it's really about all students through some tool indicating they feel safe here. All staff feel safe here. And it's the how you get to that may take different directions than just what you know today. I don't know.
So would you word it just like students and
Generally.
staff feel safe?
Well, I mean, we can put this list together and say, obviously, it's gonna evolve. If we're gonna take things off, we're gonna add things to it.
We're gonna get this back to,
We're gonna revisit this yearly and have a
Yeah.
strategic planning yearly, to make sure we're on track, where can we adjust, where are we ahead, where are we behind, what barriers do we have, what, things need to,
so to what Joe's saying, the high level version of what I just said was class offerings that inspire open enrollment in. What that means, turn it over to those folks and say, hey, what could you do that would make a kid who lives 5 miles outside of our district say, I want to go there instead of there?
Just like I think you say, innovative environment featuring empowered staff or something like that. Empowered staff working in an innovative environment. What does that mean to Angie? Maybe something different than it means to Megan. I don't know, but I think both of them would appreciate an innovative environment.
And they may do it for their individual programs with their kids,
Yeah, sure.
meeting all students, if everyone's working toward that end.
I agree.
Everybody should have the freedom to do that.
All right, so, 22 more minutes in this 5-year look. So we'll go a little faster through energized stakeholders, kind of the starting point. PAC is an educational destination that empowers staff, motivates students, recognized and is recognized for its academic achievements, extracurricular opportunities, and supportive learning environments both in and out of the classroom. They hit on a lot of really good high-level things there.
100% graduation rate.
Success for all students, sure. Definitely getting into a measure that we hope to be at that point. Okay, some other things that, and there's, and if I flip over just to give you some ideas of what's already in there and what they're working on, ensure that 100% of all coaches and sponsors in the PAC district engage in mindset training with the goal of achieving 100% student engagement and at least one extracurricular activity each year. Strategies: engage students to participate in activities, engage coaches in mindset training, engage youth extracurricular scholarship programs, CTSO implementation and engagement, research on ag safety program, implementation of community advisory committee for athletic hires. Other things that we have in that bucket.
We have pretty good, we have the numbers from Lincoln for where we're at with sports. Do we have numbers from our other extracurriculars? Can we track those? You know, in 5 years, are we increasing engagement? Are we increasing in those things? Do we keep numbers for that? How many kids participated in jazz band? How many
Music
kids?
choir.
Music
Yeah.
choir.
Mhm. And then, you know, see an increase in that.
So, is Mr. Lou back in the building by chance? Because this is
When I
exactly
went
the
out
topic.
there, he had gone, they
He
said
had
he had
gone.
gone.
Okay.
Yeah, this is an important time to.
Yeah, so I'll try to do this real quick without him, but 100% student involvement in extracurriculars as the ideal goal. And the conversation that we were having around wanting to hire coaches that increase student engagement and build community support. And one of the things that Alex suggested to me afterwards is, hey, I get where you're going with the 100% ideal goal. But one of the problems that the state had with a policing goal that was similar, and he started making analogies to the state's goals for 0 fatalities on the highway. He said, you know, that is the right goal. 0 fatalities is the right goal. Yet immediately, because they didn't market the measure, if you were a state patrolman, deputy, local policeman, you're like, if I don't have 0 fatalities in my county, you're gonna take away my funding. This is gonna impact how I get to do different things. And I can't control that if somebody did something stupid. And every year we average 300 people in the state of Iowa and our 3 million who end up in that category. And the state implemented 3 things: tactical, educational, and this is where I wish Alex was here. I'm trying to remember the third one. Tactical, educational. And you have to tell me what the other one was. Kind of bottom line with that, it was around their training and those things, and they didn't market the measure, so people were looking at that wrong. And on the tactical and educational side, they started increasing speeding enforcement. And said, hey, if we cut down on speeding, there's gonna be less fatal accidents, because if you're not going as fast, then there's less energy, and that all makes sense. They followed the science and that works. But when they increased speeding tickets, what did it actually do to the number of speeders in Iowa? Nothing. It didn't reduce that. And so they looked at that and said, well, tactically, we took these steps, but it's not actually working towards what we want. And they started down some educational routes and some different things where instead of pulling you over and saying, Tony, here's your ticket for going 5 miles an hour over, they said, come to you and say, hey, Mr. Halligan, you're speeding here. Would you like a warning and we're gonna have a 5-minute conversation, or would you like your ticket? Of course, I would say I'd like my warning and the 5-minute conversation, and they would market the measure. They would explain to you why they wanted 0 fatalities, why it was more important. Hey, if you're going 5 miles an hour slower, your chances of getting home alive, if you got in an accident, increased by X percentage. And I'm stopping you because it's important that I want you to get home to your family. And it started getting you thinking about why they wanted to do that. And now they started able to get buy-in and traction and actually start moving the needle in how people acted. And what Mr. Lou was, Chief Lou was trying to help us understand when he watched and observed our conversation was, hey, school board, you guys need to do a better job of marketing the measure. I understand why you want zero engagement, because
100%.
kids who are involved do better in different areas, etc. But if the coaches don't understand where you're coming from, they're gonna see that differently. If the kids don't understand where you're coming from, and oh, by the way, there'll be some kids who aren't in a position to want to participate in some things, and are you gonna push them into that? Are they gonna be thought lesser of as a result? No, those aren't our intent. But marketing the measure to make sure that our stakeholders stay involved, this is gonna be true for a lot of things. When we set those really lofty goals, and they're set really lofty for the right reason. So eliminating all bullying is a fantastic goal. Are we going to come to you and say, hey, if there's a bullying incident in the school next year, you're all fired? That probably wouldn't be a very effective approach to any of this. So we set a high lofty goal, and then we take standards to keep improving and reducing and trying to get that down as close to that ideal circumstance as possible. Okay? So 100% student involvement, zero bullying activities in the school. Those are idealistic goals. They're the right idealistic goals, but we have to take an accurate measure. Where do we stand today?
Can I
How can we move the needle? Please.
rephrase what I heard? Okay.
Mhm.
So 100% grad rate, 100% student involvement, because we are a board that believes the best capacity of our staff and capability and achievement. If we do not reach that goal, right, then that is just a point for us to reevaluate what's working, what's not working, and how do we help facilitate or decrease barriers or what, adjust our pivot, right? Pivot our thing. How do we continue to work tirelessly with this goal in mind, knowing it's lofty? Because what kind of board would be if we said only 90% of our kids need to graduate? Like, that's not really achievement for all. That's not really success for all. That's not really inherently believing that every child has the opportunity to learn. So this is the board putting our own belief in our administration, our staff, and our students to get there. And if we need to adjust course, we work tirelessly, right? Work every year to adjust and to find barriers and figure out how we can overcome as many barriers as possible, right?
Yep. I agree with that. Okay. At that year 5, I think we'd have very engaged communities. And again, without defining what that is, we need to win on that front. Other
In
things.
Success for All, is there a community measure? I can't remember if it's one of the 2. In the Success for All,
I think I would advocate for an academic goal in that area.
what?
An academic goal in that area, based on our testing scores.
Yeah.
Or something of that nature for.
You'll see as we get a little deeper into those Success for All, and that, again, the admin's done a great job of laying that out there. Some of the KPIs they suggested, ISASP results, that's the new ITED test. Report card data, future ready data, CTE program completers, percent of students involved in extracurricular activities. A couple academic ones there to Sarah's point. I don't think there is a community measure yet, and that'd be a great question to, I'm not sure where, numbers of involvement in booster clubs, elementary boosters, fine arts boosters, and athletic boosters. That's the number one place we want to plug them in. If we want to change that trend or measure that, it would be how many people are involved in this, how many are involved in each community in the district. How do we get representation from every community in the district in those volunteer groups, supporting our programs, helping kids in ways that are supplementing that education.
Or donations from businesses or those kinds of things too.
I think this is where I would like to see any community that wants to partner for summer lunch programs for a 5-year plan.
The lunch programs, the What did you guys think of the community history things in the lobby that we touched base on a couple of times? Would it be worthwhile to take every community in the district and work with them to implement a touch screen that you went to high school in Rolfe, you come in here and there'd be a Rolfe touch screen there of Rolfe High School history, and Grandpa's class was class of 42 or whatever. For every community in the district, something in the lobby, come in, touchscreen interactive stuff, or some other thing that helps them feel part of the building. Painting a logo on the gym floor for every city in our community. What kind of little things could we do to make every community in PAC feel like I'm part of PAC?
I don't know, but I thought of something else. Decrease staff turnover. Our
Yes.
teachers are our stakeholders. I want to see decreased staff turnover. Competitive pay scales.
Others? Youth program tie-ins with all three elementaries, PAC, PCS, Lorenz Marathon. Plays in some different areas. Ultimately, open enrollments with a lot of that's driven from, but what kind of things could we do to energize stakeholders at the elementary level in PAC and Lorenz Marathon?
And engage
Or
communities,
PCS and Lorenz Marathon.
summer lunch, another idea, I mean, we don't have to, but if there's an opportunity, we don't have a PTA. That's a great way for parents to be involved, a parent-teacher organization.
And elementary boosters, so that would.
Yeah.
Kind of what that
Elementary have some,
So the elementary boosters, okay.
just not secondary.
So there's growth for a secondary, yeah, okay. If there's parents who are wanting to do that, yeah, that would be a good way to stay engaged. Support that.
Other things, and kind of just bounce this back to the administrators. You guys have some really great goals here. Help me understand what would be some 5-year goals for some of these things that you're looking at? Academically, what sort of targets would you put out for ISAP scores, for future ready data, TTE completion? In the ideal state, everything's thriving, it's all working exactly the way you want it to. What would that look like 5 years down the road?
Well, 100% of kids are proficient or advanced
In math, science, reading.
in math, science, and reading.
Efficient or advanced?
Proficient.
in Math.
Proficient, yeah.
I just want to make sure I capture what you said, math, science.
Reading.
What other thing, and most importantly, academic, what other things, when you look 5 years out, destination school for students academically, what other things say thriving, excelling, above the norm?
I'm sure we hit all the.
I think our CTE programs continue to be strong
Mm-hmm.
and see growth, which ties into the creation of very clear pathways for 2-year and 4-year schools. Which we have some of that, but I think we could, as far as the pathways, we can definitely flush those out more clearly for students, I think.
I don't
We
think
can-
one thing I talked a little bit with Andrew about, and I've talked to Kate about, is increasing or somehow increasing our athletic performance classes. that Ms. Berenson teaches, somehow tying that with, okay, if you're an athlete or you're in a sport, that's a requirement, or working with our coaches to make sure that, they don't take that class and those coaches somehow find ways to get their students, those athletes in the weight room. I don't know how that looks right now on a baseline level, but there's offerings within our classrooms.
I went to Manson, we had better, faster, stronger, I don't know, I'm really old,
Right.
so. And even the cheerleaders had to go weight room to, the football coach ran it and he said, we weren't real athletes, but we still had to weight room twice a week instead of 3. Every athlete, if you're gonna play a sport year round, 3 times a week, better, faster, stronger.
One of the things that's nice about that is it eliminates the really, really early mornings that some of the kids have to then get up to get to weight room is when they can take it during school.
I will say that
We
has
had that.
benefited my daughter, because we live in Pomeroy. And there are many times that she's gotten here and weight room's been canceled because of the weather, because she has to leave early. So having the class, which she's in now, allows me to take the class during the day instead of doing.
Our kids are incredibly busy, I don't ever remember being as busy as they are, so trying to streamline them so that they're able to utilize their time efficiently as well and not be overscheduled.
Is that what that Jesse Peterson, is that, am I saying the name right? He used to be, is that what Peyton does? The same thing?
Yes, she does she does the weight room supervision like Jesse would have done. Not the same exact program, but she has,
I would say she's expanded it.
yeah.
There's 2 offerings, there's like a 0-1 and then there's an 8th hour, I think, right now.
Yep.
So.
And the 8th hour allows middle school students to rotate, so they get at least a taste of it.
Yeah.
And so,
And they're mentored by high school kids.
yep,
And
How to
really
use the
nice.
equipment safely,
Yep.
and how to do that.
she's got a pretty nice program the way she's got it set up. But getting more kids to be able to do it during, if it was ever possible during the day would be a positive.
We had 0 hour. I don't know if any of this, I knew what that was.
Yeah, they
because-
do.
Yeah, when you did band and choir,
They
every
have
Thursday, the whole year, yeah.
If I go back to your narrative, educational destination, empowered staff, motivate students, and recognize for academic achievements. Give me your top 2 things on an empowered staff 5 years down the road. What would that look like?
You feel comfortable to take risks, but how do you measure it? I don't know.
And that, don't have to get there
Measure it by
yet.
the fact that they keep coming back because they feel supported in innovation.
I think that, yeah, that's that, minimized staff turnover, we'll see it there.
Well, and minimize staff turnover. Is there a way to say that more positively too? I mean, it's fine that way, but, I mean, like.
Increase staff retention?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, let's say that.
That's better, much
Yeah.
better.
Good catch.
All right.
Yeah, because I tell my kids, I don't want you just like staying 6 inches from sin. I want you way over here following God. So it's like,
There we go. Perfect. Motivated students, what would that look like? In your ideal state, what would motivated students look like?
Involved in graduating with good scores. They have choices now, right? They're doing those 3 things, they have choices in life, they can go anywhere they want to. They're not limited by one particular category. Yeah.
Academic achievements, what would be your pushing the limit, BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, recognition at the state level for?
What's your empowered staff risk look like in 5 years? If you wanna go big or go home?
Okay, wait, Tony just asked.
Academic achievements is where I was,
Yeah.
yeah. Go big or go home on academic achievements as a district, what would that look like?
100% advanced or proficient.
100% advanced or
But I
proficient.
think then grades have to match. Course grades need to be aligned with ISAT, like it needs to match. Which
Is there a
means you're-
state measurement comparing us to other schools?
Yes,
Yeah.
Can we set our target to be top
we can.
5%, 10%, 2%? I don't know where we're standing, I'm just asking realistically. What's the measure, right? So if, I love the 100% proficient things.
Yeah, so we're
Definitely good
commendable
ones.
then on the school performance profile.
Oh, yeah.
I like the academic achievement, just say it again.
Commendable on the school profile, right? School academic profile.
So commendable should probably be in quotes.
So
Good. Extracurricular opportunities, recognized for its extracurricular opportunities. What would that look like 5 years down the road?
Say that again, sorry.
Recognized for the district's extracurricular opportunities. Kind of things, is it the number of offerings that we have? Is it the level of success? When we say that we want to be recognized for our extracurricular opportunities, and I actually appreciate that versus achievements, academic achievements, extracurricular opportunities, love what you've done there. Help me understand how both would look 5 years down the road.
I think there's lots of choices
Lots
for
of things,
kids.
yep,
Mhm.
okay.
There's a wide variety of things to choose from, and you can be involved in as many things as you want to.
Would that go back to your 100% student involvement
Sure does.
in
Yeah, I think
some
it has to go.
activity?
Next to that, like as a sidebar from the student involvement. And it should be involvement, not evolving, but yeah. It's okay.
It's all right, he's got a couple other birds.
I didn't
I
pass that
had to
class.
stare at it for like
So-
7 minutes to figure out what was wrong with it.
You wanna start typing on the public live stream, you go right ahead.
Grace for the lack of spell check.
I know, and since I'm already down this
Okay,
path,
where's the
INVOLVE.
Where am I? Where?
Wait, while you're there, INVOLVE.
Involvement.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll spell check all this before I send it to you.
Thank you.
All right, supported learning environments both in and out of the classroom. High level synopsis, what that looks like at an excellent level.
And I think that, but we've already addressed it somewhere else. I think that's where those character beliefs, those pack pride, they follow those kids through it. And we follow those standards, whether they're in the classroom, whether they are playing on the recess equipment after school, whether they are in sports, right? Whether they are in what?
Sitting on a bus.
Sitting on a bus, yeah. So that as staff, as a school, we're modeling those, that we're telling them, you know, like, kids are very smart. They'll figure out if those things are following them or not, right?
So just based on the verbiage that's there, we are talking more about, hey, supportive learning environments both in and out of the classroom. We really covered that up above an
Yeah.
optimized learning environment.
I agree. Yeah,
That's what I think too.
You guys good with that?
Mhm.
All right. 2 minutes over on this section, so I'll go much more quickly. And we have a lot more detail on this other side, but PAC optimizes and prioritizes resources according to students' needs while preserving the district's financial stability. And goals that were defined in that area are some strategies: improve resource allocation at PAC to better meet students' needs and support a positive environment trends, targeting a 5% rise in enrollment numbers, all while maintaining financial stability, address building security, increase open enrollment increase wages for all staff, improve facilities and become ADA compliant, adopt a communications platform. That's one, actually, I know we're spending money on it, but I think that adopting the communications platform belongs under the energized stakeholder and the communication collaboration with the other communities. Doesn't really matter which one it's in for now, but it's recognized there. It is an important thing we have to.
I have a
move
couple
forward.
things for those. Okay, I have 3. Okay. Joe, you're gonna have to help me on this and read my mind a little bit, I'm sorry. When we talked about switching over maybe propane to an insurance type program to pull it out of Pebble rather than pull it out of general fund, right?
Yep, the management.
Yeah, a management fund, yeah, okay. So utilizing resources to protect our general fund. That's, you know, being innovative and creative in the ways that we legally, that we are managing our finances. Is one of them.
Grant writing, to the point of
Between funds.
seeking a full-time grant writer, is that something that we could put on staff that would theoretically, from paying somebody 50 grand a year and they're generating $250,000 to $400,000 a year in grants? People do that? That schools have?
It's hard to do for schools, and here's the reason why. You're paying for that staff member out of your general fund. Your revenues coming in are more likely going to be in the capital side of equipment, because most grants don't necessarily pay for base salary. They're for the extra. So yes, you can generate the funds. The challenge becomes you're spending more out of the general fund to get that.
So continuing to utilize our innovative and empowered staff to find as many.
Creating
grants as
time
possible.
for them to actively pursue grant writing. I'll just put grant writing maximization. I'll misspell it so somebody will call me out.
The other one I had, so that was my second one.
The whole time.
And my third one was, dual use of like education, like when, we're, because our kids are whatever, our teachers are whatever, I'd like to see, and I know we've done it, I just cannot think of the place right now, so if there's a teacher in the room who can, where you're doing a science project, but the paper you write is your English paper, right? Where we're working and doing.
Interdisciplinary projects.
What, say that again?
Cross-curricular projects?
Yes, cross-curricular projects.
Or unit
Yes.
studies, where you have a unit that covers all the different classes.
When possible, where it makes sense for the teachers to collaborate. Because I think that when I'm learning something and I get to learn about it, and then I get to do it with my hands, and then I get to write about it, it makes much more sense and it's more effective. And I think we could get good at, and that's maximizing those teacher resources when they're able to play well, right? Not saying anyone has to force anything that doesn't get, that's not.
Well, and you learn all these skills at the same time, so they're not separate, segregated. So it takes less time.
Involving community businesses and organizations and some partnerships that fund us, as well as some things that, I know we sell services to Armstrong Manufacturing. We used to partner with Industrial Hydraulics when they were here in town. They don't know what brand FX has. But things that we could partner with local businesses, and a lot of this might be on the 0 or 2 year career paths, where if somebody straight out of high school could learn some functional aspects. I'd like to just add partnered with community businesses and organizations on a financial aspect. I was looking at you for that one, Joe. That sound all right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you prompted me to think of something else. I was jotting it down, so.
Okay.
I'm gonna go big or go home here. This is my go big or go home. I want 100% of people, family, households to fill out free and reduced lunch.
There you go.
Because when we capture our community accurately, more doors open for us financially. It is a zero cost, big gain for us. It's
It's
free lunch for all the kids. That's if we are hitting that target, right?
full enrollment. What's that? Full sign up. What do we actually need from them to?
Free and reduced lunch paperwork.
It's the paper to fill
And
out.
they fill the paperwork out, but
I know.
we all get it. But just because they fill it out doesn't mean that they're approved for it. I mean,
No,
it's all based off of their income.
Right.
So anybody, we have 100%, we do that now. Every,
We're misstating
Family.
something then. There's something that we're,
not
somebody
everyone
told
is.
us that if not everybody signs up for this, we don't get access to certain funds. What is that?
We make it available to all families, but we do not have 100%
People fill it out.
Return
of it,
completion.
Does anybody?
especially of those who qualify.
Yeah.
Right, and if we had everybody who qualified, return and complete, we could be at a higher level of benefit, was my understanding. Is that right?
but they're disqualified.
You have to qualify.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
But what we're saying is, if we get 100% of people to fill it out, we get an accurate representation of our community that may allow us to qualify for additional resources.
So restating that,
Applications from 100% of the qualified individuals or something
Mhm.
along those lines, I think is what you're trying
Yes.
to say.
yes, so that's what I'm typing here. So full enrollment in free and reduced lunch programs for 100% of qualified individuals.
Right, so I like the qualified individual.
Thank you for clarifying my crazy idea.
Because that's a win-win.
Mm-hmm. For everyone, yeah. And it costs us no money.
Other financial things that you guys see, when I read your PAC optimizes and prioritizes resources according to student needs while preserving the district's financial stability.
I think a bond issue in 5 years is gonna be something we're gonna have to discuss for updates. So identify, what we need, have a clear plan and community engagement that.
Just the notes on, we have talked about the bus barn. We talked about an additional gym.
We did expansion. I mean, because when we do all these things, we're gonna need to expand.
Early childhood development.
Yeah. Good job. If we wanna be the destination, we put a room.
And the early childhood development, that would effectively the daycare, right?
What about the preschool?
That'd be, could be part of it.
Mm-hmm. And the preschool, yeah. Get them closer to the other resources and connected to the school, would help with lunch, and help with transportation, and help with quite a few pieces.
In this section is where we had the communication app, and I guess that was a year one thing, and we can come back to that. Anything else that you guys see, facility expansion, improvements, other things from a staff perspective and funding that you want us to keep in mind of what that ideal 5-year state looks like?
I'm not sure where this would fit, but maybe like some sort of an educational component for families to show them how important guiding their students, how important it is for them to attend school, how important it is, to succeed in classes.
Like a monthly family time or something?
Yeah, something, and we've talked about that too in the past.
Yeah, we've done things like game night, right?
I had some things on attendance. I'd like to throw that under energized stakeholders. But what's the ideal state for attendance 5 years? Perfect scenario, everything's.
I think the goal's 10%, right? No more than 10% absent.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Is that the goal, less than 10%, right?
That 10% is what gets you at.
At chronic
So
absence.
less than
So we would want
5%.
Less than 5%?
Zero chronically absent students. Oh,
There you go.
But they're also children, and I think they like walls, so I swear they're always sick.
okay. All right, I'll zoom back out and I'm gonna try to get us right back on schedule here, so. Destination school for students, I think we laid out a lot of that above in those main 3 areas. Is there anything else specific to destination school for students that you guys would want us to identify specific to that? Balanced growing budget by year 5, destination school for staff. What does that look like?
Competitive wages,
Yep.
fantastic benefits, friendly administrators,
I love that.
people who are excited to come to work every day.
Feeling empowered and engaged, yes.
Yep.
How do you guys feel about setting the goal of number one in the state in terms of open enrollment in as a percentage of student body?
Sure.
I want to think about that one, if I can ask you to pause.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And here's the reason, and I'm thinking out loud, so please
Mhm.
bear with me here, which is dangerous. But when we word it that way, I'm thinking about one of my neighbors, all right? They have a very high open enroll in percentage,
Mm.
which is making up for the limited resident students,
Mhm.
which puts them at greater risk if anything happens that would cause an outflow, and it's one of our local neighbors. So they run a higher risk
I think I know
of
what
being
And
a
they also,
catastrophic situation.
and not only that, but because of the population in which they gain their open enrollment, they have significantly higher behaviors in their schoolroom because of the population of children they're getting. So, yeah.
And I'm not sure what the answer is. I'm just thinking that wording would fit one of my neighbors who I've had lots of conversations with, and the risk to the budget stability. Because if anything breaks that down, it would be catastrophic for them.
If you had a math
They
session
lost
or
Our
something.
budget?
20%.
Their budget.
More their budget.
I think that,
Because
but
if
I think
we're
that
on a-
What
there's,
he's saying is if we became that school, that we
no.
would be at that risk.
Yes.
there are intrinsic costs that cannot be regulated, like the increased need for staff, the increased wear and tear on our staff's mental health. If 1 in 3 of their kids are having such disturbing behaviors that they are not allowed in any of their school in 8 districts, that may be wearing on me as a teacher, right? Instead of having, 1 in 20, now you have a much more concentrated population of behaviors, and that's gonna take more staff, and that's gonna take more wear and tear on.
There are risks in that falling down too, and where I'm coming from with this is if we are that, we are definitely a destination school for students. And nobody's better. And so if that's what we're setting as our flag in the sand, we are saying we want to be a destination school for students. I don't care who you are, I don't care what your offering is, PAC's better, demonstrably better, and this is how we go about it.
But
And it's
I'm
very
just
lofty.
thinking about, instead of wording it the way you've got it here, what if you took something else I think I've heard you say, Tony? And that is, and I'm gonna get it wrong because it's getting late, so my mind's getting mushy, okay? But you've made references in the past about, would you recommend what you're doing or where you're working or where you're going to
Net
school?
promoter score.
There we go, net promoter score versus focusing in solely on the open enroll in piece of that.
Can we clarify that?
But I don't know if that's right or not.
Well, I can tell you exactly what that would be. It looked like this, net promoter score of greater than 4.2.
Can you dumb that
What
down
that
for me?
means, yes. What that means is, would you recommend to someone else in your shoes to take the option that you did? And it's based on the fact that humans trust humans more than anything else. So if you were going to go buy a car, okay? Cherie just bought the same car, Andrea just bought the same car, Lincoln just bought the same car. You have 10 people's ads that you saw in commercials, and you could go read 1 million people's feedback on those cars online, okay? Of those 3 sources, which one are you actually going to listen to? The 3 people you know who bought the car, the people that you found at the source you knew that bought the car, or the 1 million people that randomly had comments online?
The 3 I talked to.
It's always the people that you talk to, whether it's buy this at Target, would you put your kids in that school? Would you do business with this company? If you have those questions, net promoter score says on a scale of -100, which are your absolute haters. If you have a -100 net promoter score for a former employee, that's the person who's saying, I would never work there. You should never consider working there. If you do, you're crazy. You're a nut job. That's the negative 100%.
Can I devil's advocate?
Let me
this?
finish.
Okay.
Positive 100% is the opposite end of that spectrum, and that is that pro advocate who says, if you consider working anywhere else, you're crazy. This is the best place I've ever worked. This is the most fantastic environment. The pay's great. The wages are fantastic. It goes -100 to +100. Positive 42 is the net factor that on that minus 100 to plus 100 scale, if you're positive 42 or higher, you will be growing. If you are less than that, you will be shrinking. If you have directed your questions properly to the right audience group to get your net promoter.
So here's where I went down the rabbit hole. I thought, man, how do I make that NPS greater than 4.2 make sense in my brain? I thought, ooh, we could have 100% because, we're going big to go home today of would you recommend this school? And then it reminded me of something that we did in the medical field that was a great, horrible thing called press ganies, right? So insurance company decided that they were going to pay you based on how well you were recommended because people are the best, at rating good healthcare. And so what they found was people who get 100% of their press ganies probably don't give you safe healthcare because they're giving you what you want, not what you need, or too many narcotics. So probably the way I was going to rate that, would you recommend 100%? Not great. Would 92% of people recommend this? That's probably 86 to 92% is probably the sweet spot, right? Because if we give everybody everything they want, we're probably not following best practice. Unfortunately, I know like we're 100%, we want, but that's my.
So just to give you an idea how this would work, it's a series of survey data that ask different questions intentionally. Okay, so if I keep coming back, would you recommend your kid to go to PAC?
Yeah, the press ghani did that too.
Okay, and you can't keep, they boil down to that same question, you can't keep asking that same question. What are your experiences with PAC extracurricular activities? What are your experiences with PAC bus transportation schedule? You ask these different questions, you get feedback in different buckets. At the end of the survey, you ask, would you recommend this to somebody else? You rotate through those, you get regular built data. This is a business tool. It doesn't necessarily fit here, but that is the question.
If I get one more survey, I get enough about healthcare. There's gotta be a better way to measure it.
Survey data, survey involvement, and that's,
Can we get this data from a survey we were already doing?
you get it from your open enrollment data.
Okay, what about improvement in our open enrollment? Gradual, steady improvement. Because I think
Also
that.
mathematically placed to a cap.
Or if it's too complicated, stay with your open enroll in percentages with the realization you may have more things down the road that you'll want to watch and be aware of.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's what I think too.
Okay, I'm way past this and we're gonna switch gears. I just touched on the last one, that budget impact. Current open enrollment out for 23-24, 120.1 students, $7,735 a student. Last year it was $928,973.50 for open enroll out. This year, beginning of the year, 122.3, new number 7926. That's $969,349.80 of lost funding that has gone to another district with those students. Okay. The next half hour, and we're going to stick to that or hopefully less, and it's really, this is taking everything you guys built and putting it into a more simple visual to help kind of understand how these fall into the three buckets that the board picked for our high-level goals and what Joe reports weekly for us in our superintendent updates. I did move some things around because I wasn't sure where some of the metrics went, and I want to bounce some of those questions off of you guys and understand where we're at. High level, just to give everybody a quick understanding, the left half of these pages are us, the board, the strategic plan, the strategic initiative, the agreement to what the KPI is. The right half is really the admin and the operations team. Who's the champion of that? What initiatives are they going to drive to achieve those goals? Who is the staff leader that they're putting in charge of it?
It's a good thing you're both here because we would have just assigned you if you weren't like we did that.
So, pulling in some of their goals under Success for All.
It's already
And,
kind of a sign here.
I'm just kidding. You can contest.
Yes.
I was thinking the same thing.
Please do contest because the assignments under champion was my assumption of who from your team put that in the plan. So let's go through these one at a time and we'll kind of help understand what they are. Top objective, by the end of 24-25 school year, all students will score advanced or proficient as measured by ISASP scores. That one made it pretty obvious that the intended KPI was the ISASP scores. I assumed that the champions of that was the two principals. Is that correct?
We are the champions, correct.
We are the champions.
Getting late, okay.
Did you have specific initiatives that you wanted under that in the first year plan? It's kind of the same note pasted in there, and I don't know why I did that, honestly.
Do we want to do like a 2% growth from previous year scores? Is that attainable?
That's over in the goal area,
Oh.
and they're saying proficient or measured, okay?
Okay.
What initiatives are you doing to drive that, I guess is the question.
Our MTSS system, and early warning system for to drive our test scores.
I got the first part, MTSS and
Early warning.
early PWS.
What's the new curriculum? The social studies?
And,
Oh, we don't.
I mean, right now.
Using evidence-based curriculum.
Yes, correct. Standards aligned, evidence-based curriculum.
And if so this is part of what we'll come back to in the last section, but we're gonna give you guys back the draft plan tonight, and the stuff over on the right, I want you to take back and discuss with staff and kind of fill out more and take some of the blanks and help us complete them. I'm jumping ahead to the summary. Let me work through what you guys gave us already. So next was, you had a note in about the CTSO implementation and engagement, and you did have the research of the ag safety program. There were 4 bits of data that I thought kind of tied to this, and I wrote the strategic objective trying to verbalize what you were going after with those things. So the expand academic offering and student career paths for 4-year, 2-year, and straight to the workforce so that every student can reach their potential, their individual potential and personal goals. You guys like that? You want to change any of that? Karen didn't like that.
My apologies about that.
Don't worry.
So that's,
I
mean, I went
bird. That's what you told me.
Sound like a bird.
my apologies.
By end of year
It's all
1,
good.
they should start to identify a path, right? Because, I mean, this is the first year we've done CTSOs. So
This absolutely is. And so this is, to the point that the team made here earlier, this was not intended to be a 1-year plan. It also wasn't intended to be a full 5-year plan. We're trying to help understand and break some of those apart. And the very last thing we're gonna do tonight is talk about some of those expectations and give this back to the team with a chance to say, hey, I think this fits and should be prioritized in the remaining time of 24-25, or I think this one shouldn't be measured until next year, things like that. We'll speak more detail that and get your guys' input, but 6 months in, we're not gonna go back and ask to try to recreate the last 6 months. We're gonna start moving forward.
Yeah.
Other things that you guys had under that area, the ISAP scores, the school report card data, the future ready data, the CTE program, all of this I thought was high school. So I put you, Mrs. Christian. I wasn't sure if there are some similar things. Obviously, you're not on a career path yet, but there are character building paths and other things under successful all for elementary that, would you be willing to put your own parallel line right underneath this? And what does this row 6 here for high school, what does that look like for you in elementary, Tracy? Okay. I'm not asking for an answer right now, but.
Because I don't have one.
Yeah, good, fair enough. This next row was not in your guys' plan, but I added it because we've touched on it and talked about it in different places related to different things. But putting programs to remove financial barriers to low-income families, whether we're talking about extracurricular opportunities or CTSO things that have involvement, we want to make sure that we put together scholarship and financial programs so that nobody's reason for not participating is my family doesn't have enough money, so those other kids get to do it.
fundraising and whatever pieces are there.
So can I just throw that down as a strategic objective and start to ask you guys to spitball some ideas of how we could bring that back? The next one we talked about this quite a bit already, but 100% student involvement in at least one activity each year. That measurement straightforward is the percent of students involved in any extracurricular activity counts. If you're involved in none, you're on the 0 side. Great things, you had a lot of things listed in there already. Ensuring 100% of all coaches and sponsors in the PAC district engage in mindset training, ensure students participate in activities, encourage students to participate in activities, engage coaches in mindset training, expand youth extracurricular scholarship programs, implementation of community advisory for athletic hires. Assumption being Mr. Borba is the champion on that.
Is there any way to put the programs to remove financial barriers to low-income families under that extracurricular? I think it belongs there, because that's an initiative, or that's a.
It's an initiative tied to all those things, yes. I personally like it as its own strategic thing because it involves extracurriculars, it involves CTSOs, it involves.
Multiple things.
Yep, okay. I agree. Changed my mind.
Staff career paths, PD realignment, PD, I know we talked about it, I don't remember what you had in the first year plan. What I'm encouraging there and want to put out there is asking Mr. Kramer and the administrators to work on some things that define staff career paths in terms of what you guys were just talking about, competitive wages, benefits, et cetera. What would it look like to a young teacher who we just hired in from whatever college to come in here and say, I want to be here 30 years from now?
And when we get, I know if I was a teacher, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when we know what our year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5 looks like, wouldn't it be so helpful if we knew we were gonna focus on these initiatives in year 2, and we had education the year before, so we were ready to do it? Would that be helpful, instead of on the fly having to, like, we would be prepared that way, right? We would know, okay, we're looking to where are barriers this last year, when we reassess what would be helpful for you, how do we get there, right? And if then kind of can shape that PD to areas of need so that you can be the most successful in that year, rather than feeling like we are putting barriers in front of you without giving you all the tools you need.
And where I was really wanting, if staff career paths isn't right when you guys look back at that updated draft, really coming from the idea of destination school for staff. We got a lot of good things about destination school for students, and that is where we should lead. But we also want to be that destination school for staff. And I don't feel like under Success for All that we put much meat on the bone of what we're doing strategically, what we have to support financially as a board, et cetera, to empower you guys to do that.
Tony, can I say something?
Please.
Under the staff career paths, I just want the board to be aware that it's not just teachers, but it's associates, bus drivers, cooks. I think Andrea brought it up that you guys are doing training for associates. And I think that should be something that should be, that the board should recognize as well, is that it is for all staff. I mean, teachers are just as important, but so is the bus driver and the cook and.
And that was the intention.
And everyone else.
And it is, and it's also a very good point that we do a lot of times automatically associate with the direct teaching staff, but the intent in the Success for All and the labeling of staff and that is all staff. Appreciate that.
And the only reason I had questioned to teachers was because you'll have some very direct influence on measurable goals. That doesn't mean other staff doesn't have as much of a direct or as much of an impact on shaming and framing, or like framing us and shaping us in the future. But I think that there is, like, I don't know, I would be stressed if there was like 92 to 94%, you know,
And this is, we also want to give a lot of freedom there to do that. Remember the right side of the page, we're kind of spitballing with those guys, but that belongs to them. So this kind of thing of, we're asking Mr. Kramer to lead an initiative to develop staff career paths for all staff. And then on the initiatives and the leader side, he's going to go to Jeff and say, Jeff, on the transportation side, what kind of things do you need for your staff? And Jeannie on the cooking side, the administrators on the educational side. But we would like the leaders in each area to be responsible for the initiatives that help them drive their area forward. But that's up to you guys. If that's not how you see it, then come back and say, this is who I want leading that, because they'll do a great job representing all staff. That's totally cool, whatever. you guys think. Okay, all right. So next is financially sound, and there was a ton of good things in there, and I do kind of want to go through them. And also, by the way, as you'll see, this is the most developed section where all 6 of the potentials, 5 out of 6 are done in every one, except for maybe who at the ground level you guys might assign as particular leader, and you may not on these outside of the champion. But support positive enrollment trends, targeting a 5% rise in enrollment numbers. The data on that would be enrollment data, because the actual baseline changes every year. It's either a percent or something compared to the base. Thought that would be Mr. Kramer. Some of the initiatives we have already are some of the Lorenz and Pomeroy initiatives. We mapped open enrollment data last year. I'm hoping we could do that again. We talked about this in the draft plan, that was one that we didn't have other specific initiatives for open enrollment. If you guys have other ones you want to add tonight, we can throw them in, if you want, and we'll come back to that. We're going to give time to give you back this draft plan after we collaborated on some things, and if you want to add them then, that would be awesome too.
For example, expanding ingenuity may improve our open enrollment.
Yeah, you've done that, targeting that middle school group to keep them involved, and let's identify that as an initiative that's keeping them from open enrolling out somewhere else.
Okay, just a real quick question for Mr. Kramer, actually. Is there any positive in looking at expanding the alternative school over time to see if districts have kids that maybe have a need that could come, or are we full just from ours alone? Like, do we see any other students from other districts? I
Yes,
don't
we
know.
do.
We do. I didn't know if there was any worthwhile look at expanding that program bigger so that.
When it was put into place initially, I believe it was a collaborative effort of 4 schools. Now we're down to 2. Humboldt had participated in the initial beginning of it. They now, because of their increased numbers, have opened their own program. I believe West Bend was another partner at one point in time, and I'm not quite sure what they're doing now within theirs. Newell Fonda is still a participant and has been sending students to us each year.
In sharing,
For as
would
long
there
as I can
be any
remember.
benefit to reaching out to those old partners to see if they have a need, I guess?
More interest.
As far as expanding it, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it feels like poaching, doesn't it?
Well, here's the reason I asked that question, because oftentimes we have a waiting list
Oh,
of our own students to get into the program. So I would be cautious about expanding too fast and then making it harder for our own kids
Yes.
to be a participant. It's a good idea. I have to think that one through a little bit further, I
no,
think.
that's fair.
So when a Newell Fonda kid comes, what program comes with him?
It's based on our program costing. So,
We already built a school district.
I just wonder,
Yeah.
like, what percent of, like, say, the per pupil number of $7,900?
It's
How
whatever
much
the
of that?
program cost is for the year in that period.
So it's a,
Yep.
it's based on the number of kids who are in the program and
But if we brought in 3 times as many kids from Fonda for that, we'd get 3 times as much money. Is that an accurate statement?
yes,
But is the money coming in just covering the program costs?
it's covering
Yeah, that's what I was-
program
So
costs.
it's not
not-
generating.
It's not generating revenue.
yeah, exactly, that's what I was.
But if we are covering those costs ourselves, so if we only have 2 teacher resources that cover that and we pay 100% of it, or we use the same 2 teacher resources and they pay a percentage, we do save money from that. Am I
Yes.
wrong?
No, you're right.
Okay. So it's not generating revenue, but it's diversifying some of our spend and maybe better utilizing some resources that we're already paying for. The next one, which I agree with you guys completely as a strategy, what would the measure be for increased wages for all staff? I think we have some comparables that we see on different things, like how we
And then
pay
come down.
compared to other school districts. I know we have it at superintendent level, but do we have it at staff level?
Yeah, there's a whole chart that you can go
We saw
to
some
that.
of those.
There's some data in there. We also monitor from within the athletic conference
Uh-huh.
so that we have comparable schools from within our region.
Do we do a
Basically.
yearly market level analysis? That's what we call it in our contract. So every year, they market value what the ongoing pay for, like, my job is, and then they decide what percentage it will increase based on market level analysis.
We don't necessarily, because we don't have a way of modifying the revenues to cover that, because we're not selling a service per
Yeah.
se.
Fair.
So no initiatives under that yet? Let's think about some things to do there. A lot of the other things we're going to do to free up funds may create some of that.
And that might be a 5-year, because we need to get in more revenue in order to be able to pay Rockstar pay, right? So maybe that's, what does, so then let's discuss what does, what was the word that we used earlier? Not assertive, not aggressive pay. My mind's much now.
Competitive wages.
Competitive wages, right? What is competitive wages? Is it 5% above our market value? Is it that? Just throwing out measurable.
Well,
What is
right now, I'm just gonna throw comparable data, conference and state under the KPIs. We'll let them define some more data under that as they come back. I'm gonna try to hold us to 10, 12 minutes to get through the rest of these quick. Plan facility improvements to include ADA compliant, facility plan updates. I threw that as Mr. White and Mr. Kramer, given it was facilities that may not be accurate. Bond development for bus barn, gym, general facilities. You guys rattled off a couple others already when I was on the other page.
Early childhood
Daycare,
education.
early childhood, yeah.
Preschool.
Tony, I know we had kind of talked about the track, where would that be?
Oh yeah, track surfacing. Thank you. That would be under the bond issue, probably.
Yeah, that needs to happen ASAP.
See, Jacob Ridkers wanted to talk at the next board meeting about it,
So we're having some of that.
because he's seeing a lot of the athletes afterwards.
Mm.
Jacob is.
Lorenz recently resurfaced.
They're
In the
resurfacing theirs,
meantime, are we able to utilize those so we prevent injuries in our athletes? That would be a quick fix for
Did you catch that?
long-term fix.
Lorenz just resurfaced and we can use their track anytime if we wanted to for certain things to
And they
prevent
just
injury or
resurfaced
practice
it.
and stuff like
Resurfacing
that.
track, yeah.
Is it 6-line, 8-line?
8-line.
So while we're waiting to get costs aligned and do those things and decide where it
It's
goes,
an
there may
option.
be an option to prevent injury to our players now.
Yeah, I do know we have had some injuries that have occurred due to that.
I think Jacob said he saw like over, like 40% of the track team last year on injuries.
So I added into our bond development, options for using Lorenz in the short term, definitely something we want to do there.
What?
Other facility things from your end, Jeff, anything that we're missing that ultimately bond issue that we'd want to consider in the next 5 years? Again, you guys will have more time to think about this and digest that and include it back in. so.
I think there's been, I've heard storage from the administration before. It has been an issue, right?
The storage.
Storage, yeah.
Storage.
Yeah, and we're working on that one currently.
May not
But
be a
it's
bond
being
issue.
worked on this year, so it could
Yes.
still fall in our.
I'll throw that into this year's plan. They can pick and choose that one. Adopting a communication platform, the metric on that's gonna be yes, no. We do, I believe, we still want to complete that this year. We did get the feedback from 7 different groups of stakeholders, and the only reason we stopped was to see where that fit in strategic planning.
I think that I've had a lot, anytime I'm in a group of moms and there's a question about where things are falling on the calendar, everyone is using their Bound. Like Bound is, and as a parent, I've noticed that the elementary switched to using one platform, right? Instead of each teacher having a different platform. It used to be Remind, now it says, it comes up as School Connect.
It was past 10 and.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I feel, and I don't know that, I feel like I get significantly better communication and access to what I need in fewer, because at one point it was like 4 platforms, and I didn't know where I was supposed to, I couldn't remember for which kid, where I was supposed to go for what, and so I'd kind of like to hold because that's a significant financial cost and give Bound more time to analyze, like that can be a second or third year thing for me. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about
I
it.
think we got a lot of other complaints on that, and we've got 7 groups that we spent 14 hours of feedback on, and I don't want to flip that over. Bound is working okay when I got complaints from other people on Bound, but right now I'm gonna say we're getting too far into the weeds.
Okay.
Stop that conversation and come back to maximizing sharing opportunities. This was not in the draft you guys presented us. Everything you're seeing here came directly from the Lorenz meeting the other day, with the exception of what we just talked about for RLC evaluation for expansion. So when we went with Lorenz, metric there is really gonna be kind of sharing dollars and avoided expenses. Mr. Kramer and Mr. Halder have the lead on that. Transportation's number 1. They talked also about some positions, some activities, the facilities with the track, some potential for training. We'll let you guys go dig further into that, but those are the ones that came out of the meeting.
Just a quick update. We did ask them to start providing some transportation for morning jazz choir. But that, in those discussions with Hannah, it came out that, those would be high school kids. They have to change their policy in order to be able to transport high school kids. But they've put that on their December agenda already to make the policy adjustment to be able to drive their kids here for those rehearsals. So very, very willing to work with us, which is awesome.
Yeah. And even, so all of these activities that we do, we're paying half of the cost we would normally pay. Many of those things come out of general fund, so that helps protect our general fund dollars for things like teacher pay and all those other things, and staff pay and staff benefits, so.
Access.
Yeah, it might be, one more thing, sorry, Tony. It might be unwieldy or require some cooperation, but wherever necessary, it does have great benefit for that general fund.
Completing the access building security grant implementation, that one's another yes, no, it's done, it's not. Align roles and responsibilities from org chart to budgeted activities. This is something that we really should do with the new superintendent, and it takes time to develop that and develop it well. It's not a first year type thing, just want to kind of keep that in our longer term vision. Ultimately, the last one there, the main one, and I created the column D, maintain financial stability, but it's based off the 2 main metrics that you guys gave in that area of unspent balance and solvency ratio. And what we're really driving with those is our overall financial stability. Well, Mr. Kramer is the lead for that. 2 things that we've already done or signed on as a board on those initiatives. Number 1 is when we contracted with Grunmeyer, we did contract for part of that to be a financial handoff with the new superintendent. So ensuring a smooth financial handoff is one initiative we already started there. Another one is something that Joe and I talked about this week, and he's committed to getting to us before the end of the year. We're getting an updated ISFIS projections.
What is this?
Iowa School Finance Information Services, I believe is what it stands for. Larry Siegel,
I know that name.
it was mentioned, I think, either by Trent or Russ at that work session in the superintendent search, but Larry used to be the finance person for Iowa School Board Association before going out on his own. But Larry is still considered one of the top financial individuals for school finance in the state. And we've had Larry come here in the past to actually present. And what we'd like to do is to try to arrange to have him walk you through that 5-year projection and what some of those variables are, in which we'll go back to, I think, something that Tony referenced before. That's identifying where does that tipping point happen within your budget as to how long can you hold on. And I think that's critical for information for you to have as you're planning.
I was just gonna ask him, how do I spell Siegel?
IEG.
SIGEL, I believe.
And after you said it.
Do I have it wrong?
No, I think.
IGEL? AL.
I've seen his stuff on Iowa School Board Association.
Okay,
Actually,
last,
there's a board policy there too, and I'll look that one up. So here's the reason I bring up the board policy piece. As you're thinking about like bond referendum down the road, part of that is getting a good bond rating. And we have a policy in place that aligns to putting you in the most favorable position to get the best bond rating, which will get you a better percentage, which means your dollars go further. So we can go back and refer to that policy. I didn't have time tonight to look it up ahead, but you do have one already in place because of the bond referendum that we did with the middle school, high school building. We had to put those policies in place to get the best rating.
The last section is environment. If I go back quickly to the 5-year high level, and it's been a little more time developing this one out, kind of because I knew what had come from breaking out the 1-year draft plan. We added a lot of stuff up in here, but when you look at what was in our draft, we really only had one strategy and a lot of initiatives. So increase classroom engagement by implementing high quality instructional materials and professional development with the aim of achieving a 20% reduction in behavioral incidents. Under initiatives there, and here you guys listed behavioral data as the KPI. I felt like at least at the high school level, that's Mr. Christensen and Mrs. Christensen and Mr. Borba. Updated cell phone policy, staff participating in behavior book study, detention program, address chronic absenteeism, implement curriculum. I didn't know what you meant by implement curriculum. Was there a particular one that you were, or behavioral curriculum? Is that what we're talking about, or?
No, I don't know why that's there.
Fair enough. Continue MTSS, EWS creation and implementation. ESSA required professional development, recognition of positive
I was just
behaviors.
gonna ask if positive was supposed to be in there.
Yes.
Tracy reminded me that implement curriculum is there because we have implemented some recently.
New curriculums related to behavior or around
She's saying
classroom environment.
continue utilizing their curriculum for behaviors.
Yep, okay, and the reason I asked the behavior question separately, our only KPI under all these initiatives was behavior data. And maybe I put that implement new curriculum is probably in the wrong column by itself. And that one should be in a separate row that is part of student conditions for learning results or.
Yeah. I mean, we're not doing behavior curriculum currently in this building.
Okay.
But Tracy is.
And you guys had listed student conditions of learning and attendance data as a couple things in the environment, which makes a lot of sense. Didn't know if there were particular strategies that you wanted to tie them to or particular initiatives. We're actually close enough to on schedule that I'm going to come back to the PowerPoint and say, we have now summarized everything that was in your list. We've talked through our 5-year and our 1-year plans.
Do you have questions about where we are now?
And we're really into this last wrap up, which we've got 9 minutes left instead of 15. A true assessment of where we stand in 24-25. And what I mean by that is it's November 18th. And we are going to give this back to the administration to go fill in some of the blanks on those columns, define who's driving what the initiatives are, et cetera. Realistically, I'd like to give them a couple months before we even expect that back. And then when we start talking about what to measure, we probably shouldn't be measuring anything until January. And we're really kind of, if the board all agrees with this, is let's give them till January to come back and tell us what they can implement in the second half of this year. And that's the only thing we'll put in the plan is what you guys say fit in the second half of this year. We'll take everything else and start pushing that into years 2 through 5 to be worked with down the road.
Can I caveat that? So what I would like to see, because we're late in the year, is if there's things that they're already doing, that's great. If they want to start something new, that's great. But I'd like a lot of these to be just tracking measurements. When we know where we are, then we know how far we can push it, right? Like a lot of this is just going to be tracking. Okay, this is where we are. We've changed a lot of things this year. We're going to have an administration change. Like tracking, like this is where we are. This is where we think we can move the number for next year based on this year's data once you've tracked it down. And then we can align that with the new superintendent as well. I think a lot of these will be getting a baseline measurement, right, established this year.
So this would be one, and this is where I'm coming to. So baseline measurement, and this is a KPI sheet on the board minus this blank. And I'm assuming that we're not gonna fill in July through December because it's already November. We haven't finalized the plan. But what would happen here is when you guys are through with the draft changes and decided the initiatives you want to launch this year, they define the category. Under Success for All, we're doing these 10 initiatives with these 10 measurements. Here's the January measurement, here's the February measurement, here's March, whatever. You guys will tell us, and some of those are annual measurements, so you'll come back and say, once a year, we'll get this data. But help us see this in a way that in the end, it doesn't have to be what I have on screen right now, but we need a scorecard. We kind of define what our KPIs are. We need a scoreboard somewhere that we're all referring to the same thing. We all know, same measurement, same result. It's not something that Tony looks at and says we're doing great, and Joe looks at and says we're doing terrible. We have an agreed scorecard, and we all know what the score is versus the goal.
Well, it'd be nice to see, when as a board, we can expect those measurements. Is it something that happens twice a year testing? Is it something we're tracking monthly like behavior? Is it, you know, we have those, some shared, or what's the shared one where we're like the task list of things? You know, it could be something like that, like an Excel sheet that updates when that category is supposed to update. But just so I know, oh, gosh, I haven't seen this data. Oh, it's because it's not due for next month. That's gonna save me calling or asking questions when it's clear, like, oh, that's gonna be measured again in this month.
Usually,
So that I have a good expectation too about when I can expect the next update.
yeah, and I think you're asking for exactly what I'm putting here, but it's quick, easy visuals that are like, all right, so we're not answering any of those in the first 6 months, and this particular thing is a once a year metric, then that's the only time that we would see it. And it would be grayed out, except for the 1 month in May, we get this particular test result. Every other month of that metric would be blank. But that, some things you'll see, I'm gonna get this every month. I'm gonna get behavioral incident counts every month. But once a year, I'm gonna get behavioral or conditions of learning scores. And once a year, I'm gonna get other scores. But we went through, for this group of KPIs, you should be able to tell us, hey, this is a monthly thing, that's a once a year thing, this we'll do once a quarter, but that ultimately, here's the scorecard of how we're gonna measure that and how often you can see it. That answer that question.
And I think one thing that we did this year is we added a district on the webpage. We have the progress indicators, which kind of looks like a scorecard on there that has historical data, in attendance. All those things are part of that process, so that's newly been added within the last month. And updated with scores and all that kind of stuff, so we have foundation for that.
That's perfect. And building off of what you're doing, don't worry about, I just gave a visual example in the document I shared with you guys so you could see, it's really all I want is category, measurement, time frame, according to our plan. Okay, so one thing I'd like to give Joe a couple minutes, but a plan to allow the new superintendent to get up to speed with our planning. Can you give us an idea what that's gonna look like and feel like for that person?
Well, part of it, each of what Trent had shared, or in more detail as far as what I'm prepping for them.
Kind of in terms of being asked to come in here and what Trent had shared, or one of them in one of their success videos talked about a new superintendent coming on to execute on the Lenmar's new strategic plan and how excited he was about it. One of the things that Joe and I talked about relative to this slide here, 24, 25, and 25, 26 are a lot of where that first year plan or that first draft plan is going to end up falling out. The new superintendent is going to be on board at the beginning of 25, 26. And we want to give them time to digest where we're at before we start asking them to take on. I kind of want to leave it there and let you explain to me what we did the other day, but effectively what you're saying is don't fill in too much of years 2, 3, and 4.
You're gonna want your new superintendent to help guide you in terms of working with the staff on what they think can be done, how fast they can move, and get some feeling, because they need to get their feet under them. And if it's all scripted out for them, they really don't have the same ownership in that process. And I think you want to ensure that they're invested on your behalf.
And so in summary, kind of what you told me, and tonight, and that's why we did it this way, we focused on year 5 and year 1. We're gonna allow that person to come in and have some time to help us refine years 2, 3, and 4. And always, year 5 is gonna change every year. And we're gonna need to refresh that vision, which brings me to my very last point for the night. Okay, so we give this back to them, we ask them to come back, incorporate these things that we talked about tonight into a modified plan and tell us what you think you can complete in 24, 25. If we could vote on that in January's meeting, we'd be done with that. This plan would then be approved to be launched.
Can we do February? It's the holidays coming up, there's gonna be vacations coming up. I don't mean to, I don't wanna put the staff under, like, can we do February? Is that more feasible?
It is more feasible time-wise, and what we're really asking them to do is go back and now get with the rest of the staff, and does Mr. Carell in his industrial arts area have some ideas that might tie in with some other businesses? Do other staff, when they get to see this plan, say,
Right, but there's
hey,
gonna be, we have an extra long Christmas break, so it's 2 weeks, right? So and then Thanksgiving, I think the kids were saying is a week. So there's 3 weeks out of the next 2 months, they are not gonna be in the building, I hope, and not calling teachers at home. And so we really have 5 weeks plus whatever's left of this month. And we still have day-to-day running, and I think February, and I won't speak for you anymore, I guess, you guys can speak for yourselves, but. No, that's not the right answer.
Do you feel
If we
pressured
give
to
you
have it
an
done
extra
by
month-
January?
and you don't start sooner, that first.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you feel pressure to have it done by January?
Or do you
is
think
more
February would be
comfortable?
better?
We need to be able to find some time to work and then take it back to
Mhm.
staff.
Right.
I would choose February.
Okay, perfect.
The challenge becomes right now, there's some variables that I can't predict.
Right.
Like
For
power.
example, right now, today and tomorrow too, but today for sure, we're short subs.
Yeah.
So a number of us were helping cover
Elsewhere.
things
Yes.
while trying to do other things at the same time.
Okay, and that's a perfect starting point, so we'll give you guys till February, go work with staff, fill out the rest of this, bring that back for final approval. Annual review then typically would start with, if we're gonna go with February, which is fine, then each November, about the quarter before that, we'd start to ask staff, hey, are there things you'd like to see changed in next year's 5-year plan, and get some presentations and some ideas that by next February, we're not gonna have to repeat all this every year. We get to come back to the existing plan, get feedback from the staff on what they'd like to adjust and where they see things working, not working, and we have a very modified version. A very short and truncated version, and every few years we
Working where
repeat
barriers,
swaths,
how do
things
we
like
adjust
that.
course?
Yep. So if you guys are good with that, I'd like to get this plan approved in February and set course for starting next November to start the review of the, yes.
So you can finish your sentence. Okay, so I would just like to ask the board, if all of you feel as though your voices have been heard through this, what we did tonight, okay? Because like when we go back to our staff, then we'll complete it, which I heard you say, like, we'll bring the completed plan back to you. And that's gonna be it, right? So I just wanna make sure the board is all on, like, you feel like you've been heard, your information is completely in here.
If I had anything to put to this, that would be, I know I show up to parent-teacher conferences all the time, but the amount of parents that don't, like, is there a way to increase that? Do the teachers think that there would be a way, or because then the parents would know how their kids are reacting in school, and maybe they can do a little bit of the behavioral assessment. I just know when I talk to each teacher, they're like, yeah, I've only had 7 parents here today, you know? I just think that would be an important piece to see if they
Yes.
think it's something that could increase.
Stakeholder engagement.
Yeah, that's where it belongs.
Yep, we're heading right there.
I just never got to say it during that time.
Yeah.
100% parent involvement in parent-teacher conferences would be the
Yes.
ideal state condition, right?
That would be wild.
100% parent involvement.
We would need 7 nights of
Be a little
conference.
crazy.
Well, under the old school version maybe, but you guys can do some new things to have a different form of parent-teacher conference. I'd be happy to get that in an electronic report card a few times a month and little text thing, and I don't know, get out of the box, doesn't have to be the traditional way.
Yeah.
It is enlightening when you show up for parent teacher, like,
It is.
one of my kiddos was struggling. I said, can you tell me what barriers he's having in your class? And the teacher said, he's on his cell phone. And I was like, excuse me, he's on his cell phone? Can you please call me next time? I will ensure that there's no cell phone to be had
Right.
bothering. And the teacher was like, oh, and I was like, no, I'm serious.
That was the
Like,
same for me. The teacher was like, I would encourage him to keep putting his cell phone away. And
oh,
I'm like,
okay, if you
are
have,
you
and my
serious?
kid was like.
You know you're not supposed to have your cell phone.
Okay, so we're 3 minutes over into tier 8, but I want one last question and want to make sure you guys know. Is this board okay with giving free and full, do whatever you want with a cell phone policy all the way up to taking them out of the building?
Yeah.
Yes, I want them all out of the building.
Yes.
Mhm.
Don't feel
Staff,
restricted, don't
No.
feel worried
But
about.
not staff.
Not staff, so staff can do what they want.
No.
There'd be like 8.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question right there,
I
actually.
think that it is very distracting if my children try to call me at work and that, if they have to call the main line and talk to a stranger to get me, they may consider whether they really need to know where I put the red apples.
Not that we, anywhere from current policy all the way up to you don't want them in the building anymore, what do you guys want? But just know, I'd heard before a couple times, you guys don't want us to do that because the board doesn't want to deal with parents. I heard everybody here, we'll deal with whatever parents come and complain about that, we're good with it, what do you guys want to do with cell phones?
I would like to consider one thing though. If we are taking cell phones away from teachers, we need to have a backup safety plan where they have a button or something because they need to have access to safety measures or help.
Yeah, it's a whole conversation.
Right.
I don't mean take them away from staff.
Yeah, yeah. No. But there should be a policy maybe, so we have that for adults.
Well, modeling the behavior that we want.
Right,
Yeah, I don't know if that needs to be a policy, it just needs to be common sense, to
yeah.
be real honest.
Some of those behaviors come from the top, right? Yeah.
So are you saying that you need a policy brought to you?
No,
No?
we're saying
No.
that we're trusting you to,
You have
Follow
latitude to
Start
explore,
thinking. Okay.
yeah.
do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Well, maybe,
That's all
I
I'm
don't know
saying.
that.
You don't have to
And
change
get away
anything
with
on
the
cell
cards.
phone policy.
Do what you want, get away with it.
Outstanding meeting tonight, really. We did the annual meeting, the regular meeting, and a 2-hour work session, all in 3 hours and 5 minutes. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Tony, for all the work you do.
Yes, Tony.
And for Sarah, all the thought you put into it.
Do you guys remember when we started strategic planning and we were all like, we have no idea what the heck is going on?
No, because I wasn't here.
Okay, but it makes a lot more sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got somewhere, yeah. I remember being like, I have no idea.
Karen.
What is all this?
Out of the years you've been on here. It's,
What's the matter? Oh, no.
Yeah.
And then we're all planning on.
Your cookies were.
Oh, I was like, where'd